Chapter 905. On the planet's graveyard. Lin Zhen's mental power followed the treasure-seeking vine that had taken root underground. There were already more than 30 divine stones hanging on the treasure-seeking vine. In less than half an hour, such a huge harvest made Lin Zhen wild with joy. It was also because he saw how powerful the treasure-seeking vine was that Lin Zhen had the confidence to fight with the Heartless King. Even if he lost at that time, he could still use the treasure-seeking vine to harvest divine stones from afar, completely beating the Heartless King into submission. So what if you're strong? You're not as rich as me. You'll lose face on the spot. Moreover, Lin Zhen wasn't just doing it for battle chi. His main goal was to become famous. Those who participated in the Eye of the Storm were all experts. After they left, they would be revered by countless people. When the Eye of the Storm ended, Lin Zhen's name would spread across the surface races of the endless battlefield. Moreover, it would spread rapidly. At that time, he believed that his son would also know about him. As for the Heartless King, Lin Zhen wasn't afraid. As long as Lin Zhen was given some time, he wouldn't be afraid of anyone. Whoosh! A human figure was flying on the surface of the continent. The aura of chaotic energy proved that this person had just come out from a spatial crack. He had a pair of shiny black horns on his head. He was covered in scales and had a long tail. He was from the Ox Demon clan. After passing through 2 broken continents, this Ox Demon martial artist stopped on a small planet. Huff huff. I've finally arrived. Ha! I've finally arrived at the planet's graveyard ahead of time. It's all thanks to me learning the spatial escape technique. With my strength in the late stage of the divine realm, there aren't many people who can learn this escape technique. I've arrived here nearly a year earlier than the others. This 1 year's time is enough to pull apart the gap between me and the others. The Ox Demon stopped and looked around to see if there was any danger. PFFF. The earth trembled and a dark red figure appeared. The Ox Demon martial artist couldn't dodge in time and was tied up tightly. The huge binding force made it difficult for him to breathe. He couldn't do anything. Why is there a Rot-Tam monster here? I can't die here. Unleash my astral power. Rays of starlight burst out, and more than 450 million stars burst out. The Bull Demon was about to break free. A figure appeared behind the Ox Demon martial artist like a ghost. With a flick of the spear in his hand, he viciously stabbed it into the back of Bull Demon's neck, and the spear came out from his throat. Fresh blood flowed out. The Ox Demon martial artist, with his tenacious vitality, still attempted to struggle. The spear was like a bolt of lightning, stabbing out several hundred holes in his body in the blink of an eye. The Ox Demon martial artist finally breathed his last unwillingly after being repeatedly ravaged. The vine coiled around his body, and more than 60 divine stones fell onto the vine. At this time, the man with the long spear came over and took these things in his hand. In addition, this demon race warrior also had a black axe, which was a high-grade spirit treasure. Unfortunately, it was not within the range of the treasure-seeking vine, so he could only pick it up by hand. Not bad. There are more than 60 godstones. With my harvest today, it's just enough to exchange for a godstone inheritance crystal ball for Chris. The doppelganger flashed and returned to his body. Inside the asteroid, Lin Zhen was sitting cross-legged, taking stock of the day's harvest. On this asteroid, Lin Zhen had harvested more than 400 godstones. He originally thought that he would not be able to obtain 500 today, but he did not expect that a demon race warrior would come, allowing him to break through the 500 mark. Opening the exchange panel, Lin Zhen flipped to the inheritance crystal page. Chris, what kind of inheritance crystal do you need? Master, don't look at a martial artist's strength. What I need is a martial artist's sage. You'd better look for the inheritance crystal that was not sold last time in the Eye of the Storm, because that kind of inheritance crystal contains a lot of memories about the Eye of the Storm. Lin Zhen nodded. Chris was right. What he lacked now was experience related to the Eye of the Storm. After searching for a while, Lin Zhen found one. This was the owner of the inheritance crystal ball, a martial artist who had participated in the War of the Gods the earliest. It could be said that this martial artist was an elder of the Eye of the Storm. However, this martial artist battle record was not outstanding, and he did not have any special cultivation methods. Therefore, his inheritance had not been sold even after experiencing the eye of the storm 3 times. Lin Jun looked for a while, and without hesitation, bought this inheritance crystal ball worth 500 godstones. An angel of energy waving a pair of radiant wings appeared in front of Lin Jun, received the godstones, and handed over the inheritance crystal ball to Lin Jun. This was an angel of God, and it was specialized in delivering things in the eye of the storm. Master, place the inheritance crystal ball in your inner world. I will automatically record all the information inside and automatically transmit martial skills and battle techniques to your brain, allowing you to obtain new martial skills. Okay, transmit the valuable ones to me and don't need the useless ones. Understood? The absorption will take about a day, and I will not appear for a day. Chris's extra-dimensional universe closed, and she began to upgrade. Lin Jun did not stay idle while Chris entered the state of upgrading. During the day, he once again consumed the treasure-hunting vine's juice to resolve the pill toxins in his body. After resolving the toxins, Lin Jun immediately took the medicine and broke through to the peak of the 3-flower realm in one go. Lin Jun's astral power had finally risen to 400 million, and the auric flower had fully bloomed. He once again injected blood into the treasure-hunting vine, giving it new life. After doing all this, Chris's upgrade also ended. After receiving the inheritance, Chris had indeed changed a lot. Although this inheritance of the Godstone realm was not outstanding in terms of martial skills, it had a deep understanding of the Eye of the Storm. It knew where wars broke out, where there were more deaths, and where there might be treasures. Chris now knew all these things very well. However, it would still be a long time before Chris could transform. If Lin Jun could get his hands on the inheritance crystal ball, Chris would have a chance to become a real intelligent life. Currently, there were very few people in the entire planetary cemetery area, so the chances of encountering enemies were not high. Lin Jun had also thought of a strategy for this period of time. He would not go to the core area for the time being. Before a large number of warriors arrived, Lin Jun would slowly cultivate in the peripheral area. There was still nearly a year before a large number of warriors arrived. Lin Jun had already comprehended time deceleration by 3 times, so 1 year was equivalent to 3 years for him. If Lin Jun could comprehend time deceleration by 4 times, 5 times, or even higher, this 1 year would be equivalent to 4 years, 5 years, or even more. What Lin Jun lacked now was time. Chris, check and see if there's any place nearby that might have the most divine stones. I want to find a suitable place to cultivate in seclusion for a year. Master, 0. 3 light years away from here, there is a large planet called Linda. It is a rare area in the border area where a great war broke out. Many experts died there, but the war finally broke out in the core of the planet. There are no divine stones on the surface of the planet. Although the Eye of the Storm opened twice, it is likely to be an undeveloped area. Lin Jun's eyes suddenly lit up. There is such a place? Yes, the owner of this inheritance crystal ball I received is a Godstone realm warrior who majored in earth energy. In that battle, many earth energy experts fought in the core of the planet. In the end, most of them died in the interior of Linda and the surrounding planets. There are no divine stones on the surface. Lin Jun pondered for a moment. There are no warriors in this place right now, right? There shouldn't be. The number of warriors who have come to the planet's graveyard is extremely small. Even if there are, they have all gone to the core area. Chris smiled mischievously. These warriors are stupid. The core area has always been the most important place to explore. Everyone has placed their strength there. The divine stones there have already been swept clean. Although there are still some gains, there is no way to compare with Master's exploration. Lin Jun smiled. This is all thanks to you. Of course. I am Chris, a super intelligent life form who can even be born in the future. I am Master's best assistant. Good. You are amazing. When I have enough divine stones, I will immediately exchange them for a demigod-level crystal ball for you. Okay, Master, you can go now. Remember to change the blood of the treasure-seeking vine again so that it can absorb high-grade spirit treasures. The spirit treasures can also be used to trade with warriors for divine stones. Lin Jun nodded. Okay, give me the coordinates. Chris quickly gave the coordinates of Linda to Lin Jun. After putting away the treasure-seeking vine, Lin Jun determined the location. Linda was about 0.3 light years away from his current location. At such a long distance, Lin Jun had to use the Luotian escape skill. This time, Lin Jun was much more careful. After studying for a long time, he determined the approximate location of the teleportation and then tore space to enter. Lin Jun's escape skill was finally more reliable. Although the location where he came out was still a little off, it was less than a day's journey. After 7 hours of rushing, he finally arrived at Linda. Although the planet graveyard was a place where countless planets gathered together, there were often large gaps between the planets. But in the area of planet Linda, thousands of planets were densely packed together, forming a huge piece of land that was almost impossible to see. When Lin Jun's feet landed on the land, a cloud of dust rose from the ground. Good heavens! Looking at the dust, no one has come here for countless years. This is definitely a place with good feng shui. Walking along the path under his feet, Lin Jun finally arrived at the largest protrusion of the land, Linda. Chapter 906. The surface of planet Linda is very hard. When the battle took place, the surface was even camouflaged because it was the territory of the Earth elemental warriors. The purpose of the camouflage is to not be disturbed. It is also because of this layer of camouflage that planet Linda was able to survive the previous 2 sweeps. However, this disguise is useless against you, Master. The treasure-seeking vine will automatically move according to the location of the treasure. However, I suggest that you let the treasure-seeking vine level up before you move, because there are many high-grade and even supreme-grade spirit treasures here. Don't waste them. You should know that mid-grade and high-grade spirit treasures are not that special. However, a supreme-grade spirit treasure can be sold for hundreds of godstones. After listening to Chris's suggestion, Lin Jun nodded. All right, it just so happens that I've mastered time acceleration by 3 times. In about 5 days, I'll be able to advance to the later stage of the 3-flower realm. Lin Jun's body flickered, and a clone appeared. The 4 elemental flowers in his body bloomed, and the earth elemental energy surged. His doppelganger took the lead and entered the core of planet Linda. Opening up a path, Zhang Xian's main body followed closely behind while his clone returned to the surface, covering up all traces of him. The ground returned to normal. From the outside, it looked as if no one had been here before. This Linda planet was extremely large. It was at least 100 times the size of Earth. Lin Jun kept moving forward, and it took him a while to reach the core of the planet. At the core of the planet, the lava and other fire elemental energy had been exhausted. There was no life here. It was a completely dead planet. Furthermore, this planet was connected to other planets, forming a boundless continent. Good heavens! If we let the treasure-seeking vine search, it would take almost a year. Lin Jun separated his hands, and 2 swords of light extended from his palms. They were about 5 meters long, and they flickered gently. Swish! Swish! Brandishing both hands, the 2 light swords sliced out horizontally and vertically in the Earth's core. Pieces of rocks tumbled down, and soil flew up. With a wave of his hand, Zhang Xian released a suction force that sucked all of the items into his body. Soon, Lin Jun cut out a huge space that was dozens of meters long, dozens of meters wide, and several meters high. Phew! Success! For the next year, this will be my home. This was a huge rectangular room. Lin Jun once again used his earth attribute energy to form a wall in the middle of the room. There was a door in the middle that allowed entry and exit, and the room became 2 rooms. This is my cultivation room. The other room is my clone's alchemy room. Lin Jun didn't have many elixirs left. Currently, he only had elixirs at the peak of the 3-flower realm. He had prepared the herbs for the divine will realm, but he hadn't had the opportunity to refine them into elixirs. This time, Lin Jun wanted to try his best to refine all the herbs for the spiritual will realm. This required time and process. He took out the herbs in his inner world and did a simple inventory. The result of the inventory was that all of these herbs could be refined into pills that could support Lin Jun to reach the peak of the spiritual force transformation stage. Currently, I still lack the pills to enter the celestial realm. However, according to Qian Tong's memories, at most, he can refine spiritual force pills. He doesn't have any celestial realm pill recipes. Lin Jun was slightly embarrassed. Celestial realm pill recipes were very difficult to obtain. Lin Jun had never heard of any alchemist who could refine pills for celestial realm cultivators. However, Lin Jun had been taking pills to break through and had become accustomed to the speed of his cultivation. Patiently cultivating to the celestial realm was a bit difficult for him. Although I'm a saint-grade alchemist, my current comprehension is still not enough. At the very least, I can't refine celestial realm pills. Forget it, the eye of the storm is in the middle of nowhere, so I can't find a good way for the time being. I'll just take it one step at a time. If worst comes to worst, I'll just cultivate patiently. After learning time deceleration, cultivation won't be particularly difficult. After making up his mind, Lin Jun's clone took the pill furnace, herbs, and other items into another room. Lin Jun sat down and adjusted his breathing while activating the divine ethereal bell to continue his meditation. He entered the garden inside the divine bell and began to comprehend the quadruple time acceleration. 3 days passed without him noticing. After 3 days, Lin Jun opened his eyes. It's about time. The state of my body has calmed down. I can take the pill again. With a flip of his palm, Lin Jun took out the third type of flower cultivation pill. The pill of spiritual will is actually a pill for mind power. After taking this pill, I'll release my mind power and condense a flower of spiritual will above my head. After obtaining the flower of spiritual will, my realm is considered to have entered the 3-flower late stage. After calming his breathing deeply, Lin Jun decisively took the flower cultivation pill. The rich medicinal power was injected again, and Lin Jun began a new round of breakthroughs. Another day passed. By the time Lin Jun opened his eyes, a third flower had bloomed above his head. At present, the energy flower and the auric flower above Lin Jun's head had reached 100% blooming, and the flower of spiritual will was at 50% blooming. The condensation of the third flower gave Lin Jun another 25 million points of star power. His star power had now reached 425 million points. Chapter 907. On the ground side, there was a team of over 100 martial artists exploring the planets one by one. Even the weakest martial artist in this team was a godstone. There were 10 people in a team, and the leader of each team was a demigod. The teams moved forward in different directions, and each of them had a huge metal ring in their hands. The metal ring was glowing, and every time a godstone appeared, the glow would brighten up. Move faster. Try not to leave any blind spots. A king-ranked demigod flew across the sky, shouting at the people below. At the back of the group, there was a huge metal carriage pulled by 9 azure dragons. It was moving slowly behind them. When teams of 3 to 5 people met this team, they would take the initiative to retreat. This team was too strong, and normal martial artists would not be able to fight against them. Who are these people? They are too strong. Even the weakest of them is a godstone, and they are moving towards the planet graveyard. Shouldn't such a strong team go to the cross-continent? I'm not sure, but to be able to command such a strong team, you should be at least an emperor. But I see 2 emperors in this team. Who is the commander? You're ignorant, aren't you? These are the subordinates of the Emperor of Purgatory City, Laughing Over All Life. Do you know Laughing Over All Life? He is from Sky City's Hall of the Exalted, and the 2 emperors are his subordinates. Oh my God, it's a Hall of the Exalted. Why would such a strong person come here? Probably to collect godstones quickly. We can't understand the thoughts of these strong people. Inside the metal carriage, a tall martial artist with long hair leaned on the dragon carriage and squinted his eyes. The interior of the dragon carriage was luxurious, and even the curtains were made of star pearls. Star pearls were refined from stars. They were only refined from the core of a star after a white dwarf exploded and did not form a black hole. It had the ability to automatically emit light like a night pearl, and it also had its own warmth. It was extremely precious. Slap! The curtains of the star pearls were opened, and an emperor walked in. Lord laughing over all life, today's harvest is out. Okay, speak. I worked for 22 hours today, and I got 285 godstones. Laughing at all life tapped the white jade table lightly. Less than 300. My lord, this is a normal fluctuation. According to the average calculation, we should be able to find about 3 divine stones per person per day. It's not a big deal if it's a little less occasionally. Laughing at all life nodded. Of course I know that's normal. But time waits for no one. 300 godstones a day means 9,000 godstones a month. If I want to accumulate 100,000 godstones, I'll need at least a year. My competitors won't give me that much time. Sir, you're talking about the Hall of the Exalted Powerhouse from the endless race, Bloodshadow. His speed of finding godstones should be about the same as ours. Yes, he has the same number of subordinates as us. His goal in coming to the Eye of the Storm is the same as mine. We're both here for the god's legacy crystal ball. The regal demigod thought for a moment and said, My lord, you already have the deity crystal. Why don't you just refine it and become a deity? Why do you insist on looking for God's legacy? What do you know? I can forcefully refine the deity crystal and become a deity, but even if I become a deity, I'll still be at the bottom of the deities. If I can get God's legacy, it'll be different. After I get God's legacy, I won't be as strong as those who cultivate to become a deity, but it'll still bring me great benefits. After I become a deity, I'll still be in the middle of the pack. This is the dream of many demigods from the Hall of the Exalted. Then I'll urge them to hurry up and try to increase their daily harvest by 50. Do your best, if there's really no other way. Laughing at all life said coldly. A cold expression appeared on Laughing over all life's face. I didn't raise so many godstones for nothing. The godstones they have are my reserves. Just like Laughing at all life, there was also a demon race martial artist from the Hall of the Exalted leading 100 demon race warriors to search for godstones. This demon race Hall of the Exalted was called Bloodshadow. His goal was the same as Laughing at all life's, which was to get God's legacy in advance. His conversation with his subordinates was the same as Laughing at all life's. Both of them saw each other as competitors. This time, only the 2 of them from the Hall of the Exalted entered the Eye of the Storm. In their eyes, only the other party was worth paying attention to because no one else had the strength to fight against them. Other than some conflicts that broke out when a martial artist first entered the Eye of the Storm, it gradually entered a period of peace. This was because the surface races were now together with the surface races, and the endless races were together with the endless races. There would not be many conflicts between them. At the very least, before a large number of martial artists arrived at the planet cemetery and the crisscross continent, such peace would still be maintained. However, everyone knew that this was temporary. When the surface races and the endless races met, it would be when the real conflict between the 2 sides would break out. Occasionally, some martial artists would exchange for treasures. However, most of the martial artists were accumulating godstones to buy better things. They would get the good stuff first, and then use the remaining godstones to exchange for whatever they had. Many martial artists were drooling as they looked at the crystal ball of God's legacy. However, everyone knew that this treasure was definitely out of their reach. Only a true powerhouse with a corresponding force could obtain it. Time passed by slowly. 10 months had passed. Asterisk, 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 asterisk inside Planet Linda. Linjun's cultivation deepened day by day. The clone's pill refinement was quite smooth. In the 2nd month underground, the clone had already refined enough pills to allow Linjun to break through to the divine thought realm. At this time, Linjun's realm had also reached the peak of the 3-flower realm. The 3-flower realm above his head was in full bloom, and his star power had reached an unprecedented 450 million. At this time, as long as Linjun swallowed the pill, his realm would be able to go straight to the divine transformation realm. However, Lin Jun did not choose to break through immediately because he still did not feel the overflow of star power. In order to pursue a perfect breakthrough, Lin Jun chose to continue cultivating. He released the treasure-hunting tongue, which could move freely in the star field near planet Linda. Every time he collected enough godstones, it would be automatically sent back here. However, it could not go out of the star field. In the third month, Lin Jun mastered the quadruple time deceleration, which gave him more time to cultivate. In the fourth month, Lin Jun mastered the quintuple time deceleration. As for the avatar, after refining a portion of the pills, it also began to comprehend the stone tablet during this period of time. In the fifth month, Lin Jun's cultivation of Shadowless Steppe made another breakthrough, and he successfully comprehended the sixth diagram. After comprehending this diagram, Lin Jun's combat ability greatly increased. Even if he did not use the treasure hunting ting now, he was confident that he would not be defeated by an opponent at the peak of the divine realm. In the sixth month, Lin Jun finally mastered the quintuple time deceleration. After the time ratio reached 1:5, Lin Jun had more time to cultivate. The clone temporarily stopped comprehending Shadowless Steppe and changed to comprehending the third move of Limitless Sword skill, Rakshasa. Comprehending the second move, Cold Forest, took Lin Jun 10 years. This move, Rakshasa, was dozens of times more difficult than Cold Forest. After comprehending it for a while, Lin Jun judged that it would take him at least 200 to 300 years to comprehend it. However, Lin Jun still had plenty of time. He had to learn Rakshasa. This move was his trump card to contend with powerhouses and guarantee that he would be able to jump realms to fight. With the time ratio of 1:5, Lin Jun sat in meditation every day, cultivating his star force and completely dissolving the mental instability caused by his rapid progress. In the seventh month, Lin Jun mastered the quintuple time deceleration. At the same time, he also felt that his three-flower boundary star force had reached an overflowing degree. At this time, if Lin Jun chose to make a breakthrough, there would be a perfect breakthrough. Besides his inner world, it was possible for his body's star force to double. But Lin Jun didn't immediately do so. The divine transformation boundary was the dividing line between a martial artist and a god. The better one's foundation was, the stronger they would be in the future. In Lin Jun's opinion, reaching the divine transformation boundary from the three-flower boundary was extremely important. He always felt that he was missing something. He had already instructed Chris to immediately notify him when the treasure-hunting tongue had gathered enough divine stones. Thus, Lin Jun was still waiting. He was waiting for the moment when he could exchange for the god's inheritance crystal ball. In this region of Linda Planet, the treasure-hunting tongue could harvest around 400 divine stones every day. Although Lin Jun didn't check the number of divine stones in order to avoid being distracted, he knew that that day would soon arrive. In the 8th month, Lin Jun didn't have any harvests. It could be considered a relatively dull month. He was still far from comprehending the myriad sword art, and he hadn't made any progress in his time deceleration. But in the 9th month, Lin Jun finally had a great harvest. First of all, Lin Jun had comprehended the quintuple time deceleration to 6 times. The time ratio had reached 1:6. Then, Chris finally notified Lin Jun that the treasure-hunting tongue had completed its mission and returned. Lin Jun, who had just completed the quintuple time deceleration, was overjoyed. He immediately stopped cultivating and went to check on the treasure-hunting tongue. During this time, the divine stones and treasures that the treasure-hunting tongue had gathered were all piled up in the alchemy room. Lin Jun was afraid that he would be distracted, so he didn't look at them. But this time, the room was filled with dazzling treasures that dazzled Lin Jun's eyes. Master, congratulations. The treasure-hunting tongue has exceeded its expectations this time. It has collected a total of 115,000 divine stones. Lin Jun was taken aback. 115,000? Didn't I say 100,000 would be enough? Master, I can't use the god's inheritance crystal ball directly, so I acted on my own initiative and let the treasure-hunting tongue collect more. This way, you can exchange for the demigod's inheritance, the regal inheritance, and the Hall of the Exalted's inheritance all at once. I can also level up as quickly as possible. Lin Jun immediately wiped the cold sweat off his head. Without saying a word, he put away the divine stones. Then, he counted 100,000 divine stones with his mind power and quickly opened the exchange panel. He directly exchanged for the god's inheritance. When the energy angel flapped its wings and appeared, Lin Jun finally let out a long sigh of relief. Chapter 908. Lin Jun's intuition was not wrong at all. A minute after Lin Jun exchanged, laughing over all life's dragon chariot let out a furious roar. Who? Who exchanged for the inheritance crystal? Laughing over all life swept everything on the table onto the ground, trembling in anger. In order to exchange for God's inheritance, he had even secretly killed 20 martial artists in the Godstone realm and collected many Godstones. However, just as he was about to exchange for it, he realized that God's inheritance crystal had just been exchanged for. It must be him. It must be that bastard Blood Shadow. Other than him, no one else in the entire Eye of the Storm has this ability. The two regal demigods beside him did not dare to speak as they watched laughing over all life exchange for a silver megaphone. Using the silver megaphone could let everyone in the endless races hear his voice. However, before laughing over all life could speak, a voice had already sounded in the dimensional universe of the surface races. Laughing over all life. You're so King Ruthless. You actually intercepted me at such a crucial moment. Did you exchange for the god's inheritance crystal ball? I won't waste time with you. Name a price. As long as I, Blood Shadow, can afford it, I'll definitely buy it. The people on the ground were all stunned. They all opened their dimensional universes to take a look. As expected, they realized that the god's inheritance crystal ball was no longer on the god's exchange panel. Blood Shadow was the Hall of Fame of the endless races. Hearing him say this, the martial artists on the surface races cheered. As expected, the Hall of Fame of the surface races was stronger. To be able to exchange for God's inheritance before the endless races, this was a great thing for the surface races. Perhaps in the future, the surface races would have one more god. However, the endless races martial artists looked solemn. This was because Blood Shadow was using a dual megaphone. Both races could hear him. Just as everyone thought that laughing over all life had obtained the inheritance, they did not expect laughing over all life to also use a dual megaphone to speak. Hee, how laughable. Blood Shadow, you've obtained the inheritance, yet you still want to frame me. Now, name your price. Even if I can't afford it, I'll sell everything I have. Even if I have to go out and borrow money, I'll buy your inheritance. It was another voice that could be heard by the martial artists of the two races. This caused them to be stunned again, not knowing who to believe at all. Blood Shadow's cold laughter could be heard from the other side. Ha ha! You piece of trash! I swear to the heavens that if I get that God's inheritance crystal ball, I will never be able to enter the God realm. Do you dare? Come, come, come. Whoever is afraid is a coward. Let's swear together. Laughing over all life wasn't afraid at all. The two of them actually swore to not exchange for the god's legacy crystal ball in front of the warriors of the two races at the same time. After he finished speaking, the dimensional universe fell into silence. The two Hall of the Exalted swore at the same time. This matter could not be faked. In other words, the person who had exchanged for the god's inheritance was someone else. Who was it? Who was so awesome? Under the watchful eyes of the two great halls of the Exalted, he had collected 100,000 Godstones in advance in exchange for the crystal ball. Who had such an ability? No one could have guessed it, but they could imagine that this guy was definitely a powerhouse. Laughing over all life was the first to say angrily, all the warriors of the surface races, check the people around you. Whoever can find out who exchanged for the crystal ball, I, laughing over all life, will give him 10,000 Godstones. If there really was such a person, as long as he was in the crowd, there was no way he could keep a secret. This was because most people had partners. Whoever had the most gains would definitely be noticed. However, no one responded for a long time. 10,000 Godstones was a sky-high price. If no one responded, it meant that no one had seen it. On the Endless Races side, Blood Shadow also asked the same question. However, no one answered. This meant that the person who had obtained the god's inheritance crystal ball was a lone ranger. A regal demigod beside laughing over all life suggested this idea. Sir, could this be possible? A lone ranger found an undiscovered treasure, harvested a large number of god stones, and then directly exchanged them for the god's legacy crystal ball? Laughing over all life's face darkened as he thought for a while. You're right. However, to be able to do this without anyone noticing, he's definitely not an ordinary warrior. Finding a lone ranger in a galaxy is like finding a needle in a haystack. This is not going to be easy. The regal demigod said. Then what do we do? Give up? Of course we can't give up. I believe that the person who has inherited the god's legacy will not die so easily. When the two races meet in the eye of the storm, most of the people will be eliminated. At that time, there will be fewer people left, and it will be relatively easier to find him. I don't believe that he won't give himself away in the next 49 years. Laughing over all life's eyes flashed with a cold light. As long as I find out who took the god's inheritance, I'll make sure he won't be able to leave the eye of the storm alive. The regal demigod nodded. Of course. However, now that the god's inheritance is gone, Sir, laughing over all life rubbed his forehead and closed his eyes tiredly. After a while, he slowly opened his eyes. Looks like there's only one path left. What path? The Valley of Wind and Thunder, the place where two gods perished together. If I'm lucky enough to go there, I might be able to obtain a better inheritance. However, I have to be wary of Blood Shadow. He'll definitely have the same idea as me. The regal demigod was also filled with excitement. If he could really obtain the inheritance of one of the two gods in the Valley of Wind and Thunder, he would really be rich. Crazy's evolution process lasted for a whole month. In this month, she went from demigod inheritance to regal inheritance, Hall of the Exalted Inheritance, and finally God's inheritance. During this process, every inheritance crystal ball was carefully selected by Lin Jun. The demigod inheritance came from a demigod who entered the Eye of the Storm the first time. He had a good understanding of the Eye of the Storm. The Emperor-level inheritance was the memories of an emperor during the second battle in the Eye of the Storm. The inheritance of the Hall of Fame came from a Demon Hall of Fame powerhouse who had died during the War of the Gods. This powerhouse had also been proficient in the art of refining weapons. The god's inheritance came from a god of the surface race. However, he did not fall in the Eye of the Storm, but in the depths of the distant, endless battlefield. Lin Jun didn't immediately absorb the memories of the four experts. Instead, he stored them in Lin Jun's dimensional universe and let her sift through them, extracting the essence and discarding the impurities. After sorting out the useful parts, Lin Jun could slowly study them. For Lin Jun, this 1 month was equivalent to 6 months. After cultivating for half a year, Lin Jun was able to accelerate time by 7 times. His astral power had already reached the point of overflowing, and he was just waiting for the day of the breakthrough. It wasn't until the 10th month that Crazy finally completed her evolution. While Lin Jun was researching the 7-fold time deceleration, Chrissy's voice came from the dimensional universe. Master, I've completed the absorption and upgrade. I can now transform. Hearing this voice, Lin Jun was overjoyed. Then transform and let me see. The transformation of an artificial life requires the master to set the appearance. Now, please set a body image for Crazy. Lin Jun nodded. Do you have any requirements? Female, young, beautiful, cute. That's about it. Lin Jun closed his eyes and thought for a moment. Soon, he had an answer in his heart. A long time ago, when he was in the New Territories, Lin Jun was once saved by a little girl named Yaya on the Magnolia planet. Later, Yaya and the people on that planet all died. It was equivalent to being implicated by Lin Jun. For so many years, Lin Jun had experienced countless killings. He had killed countless people with his own hands. His heart was as hard and ruthless as steel. However, that cute little girl had always remained in Lin Jun's memory. Although Yaya could no longer be resurrected, he hoped to have a chance to see her again. With that in mind, Lin Jun quickly set Crazy's image in the dimensional universe. It was a little girl with a head full of pigtails. She had big eyes and a small mouth. She was very cute and lovable at first glance. She was wearing a pink princess dress with lace. Her little hands were chubby, and her face had cute baby fat. After repeatedly adjusting the settings, Lin Jun confirmed Crazy's image. It was exactly the same as the Yaya in his memory. Okay, that's it. Lin Jun confirmed Crazy's image. When he clicked confirm, Crazy's image was fixed. Under Lin Jun's expectant gaze, there was a flash of light and shadow, and Crazy finally took human form. Looking at the cute little girl who was about 4 or 5 years old in front of him, Lin Jun's heart was filled with joy and excitement. This could be considered as fulfilling one of his wishes. Crazy was also very excited. After she came out, she immediately raised her arm and looked left and right. However, that joyful smile quickly froze on her little bun face. She raised her little chubby hand, and a mirror appeared in front of her. A sharp little girl's scream rang out and shook the underground room. It also shook Lin Jun's eardrums. This. What is this? Master, do you have a psychological problem? Are you a pedophile? Why did you turn into a little girl? Lin Jun was stunned. Didn't you say young and pretty? I think this body is very cute and pretty. Moreover, it's young enough to meet your requirements. I was talking about a great beauty, the kind that is 18 years old. Who wants to be a little girl? No, change it for me. Change it. Crazy pounced forward and hugged Lin Jun's leg with her chubby little hands. She shook it clumsily like a spoiled little kitten. Lin Jun could not resist this little girl's coquettish attacks. He helplessly opened the dimensional universe again and wanted to adjust Crazy again. Chapter 909. As an intelligent life form in the dimensional universe, Crazy knew that she would not be able to adjust herself after she transformed. She just could not accept her cute image and could only helplessly accept her fate. Angrily sitting on the side, Crazy said to Lin Jun, "Master, your bad taste will not lead to a good result. Do you know the level of an intelligent life form that can transform?" "What level?" "Only an intelligent life form that has received the inheritance of a god or someone who has become a god can transform. Generally speaking, an intelligent life form that can transform can only appear in the Hall of the Exalted or even the gods. It is basically impossible for others to have the opportunity to obtain an intelligent life form that can transform." As she spoke, Crazy raised her hand and drew a water mirror for Lin Jun to see. "Look at how majestic and domineering the other people's lives are." Lin Jun looked over and saw that it was indeed so. Blurry virtual figures appeared one by one. The figures were the masters, and it was not important who they were. What was important were the intelligent lives. There were tall and mighty orcs, golden angels, demons, divine dragons, elves, golden armored generals, and so on. All of them were extremely gorgeous. Even if there were female intelligent lives, they were all stunning. Some were charming and enchanting, while others were pure and beautiful. There had never been an intelligent life form like Lin Jun, a little girl in a princess dress. Seeing this, Lin Jun could not help but cover his face. "Your intelligent life form looks so weak compared to others. Oof. It's all your fault, you wretched uncle. Why did you have to make a little girl?" When those powerhouses with transformed life forms communicate, the life form will often appear on their shoulders. At that time, the one who will be embarrassed will not be me, but you. At this point, Lin Jun might as well be stubborn to the end. It's nothing. The strength of a warrior is not determined by the appearance of an intelligent life form. I think your image is very good and very suitable. That's it. Chris also accepted her fate and lowered her little head. She opened her chubby little hands, and her whole body landed on Lin Jun's shoulder. "All right, I won't be able to adjust anyway. I'll get used to it in the future. Tell me, Chris, what new benefits did you get from your successful upgrade this time?" "There are many benefits. First of all, I have a basic understanding of the situation in the eye of the storm. Except for the Valley of Wind and Thunder, I know every place like the back of my hand. In the future, you can ask me anything here. In the outside world, I'm almost a know-it-all. After all, I have inherited the memory of a god." "Oh, since you're so powerful, What skills do you have that you can impart to me? There really is one that you really need. Master, I really admire you now. You forcefully suppressed your cultivation and didn't immediately break through. This is an incomparably correct choice because there's a great opportunity for the 3 flowers to divine transformation. What opportunity? Lin Jun asked curiously. Divine transformation is the first step for a martial artist to evolve into a god. Martial artists are divided into martial artists and spirit readers. What I want to talk about now is the part about spirit readers. Chris had a Loli's little face. Her serious look made her look especially silly and cute. Lin Jun couldn't help but want to laugh. Chris looked at Lin Jun's somewhat distorted face and gritted her teeth. Master, if you continue to be like this, then we'll cut off all ties. Okay. I won't laugh. Continue. Lin Jun put on a straight face. I'll believe you this time. Chris continued. The gods have a unique skill called Divine Might of Destiny. It condenses the spirit power into a beam. Depending on the strength of the spirit power, the range of the beam will increase by thousands or even tens of thousands of times. Even if they are hundreds of millions of kilometers away, they can still kill the enemy in one hit. That powerful? Then wouldn't that be invisible killing? Lin Jun was stunned. He didn't expect such a powerful skill to exist in the world. Yes, it's invisible killing, but to put it bluntly, it's an enhanced version of the spirit attack. It's super long range. What does such a powerful skill have to do with my breakthrough? Lin Jun asked. Of course it has something to do with it. All gods have divine might of destiny, but those who have divine might of destiny don't necessarily have to become gods. There are 2 prerequisites. Chris raised 2 chubby fingers. The first one is that the martial artist must be proficient in the space arts. Master, your understanding of the space laws is already very deep. You can come and go as you please with the Luo Tian escape technique. You've met the first condition. What about the second one? The second condition is that the martial artist's spirit power has to break through to the Azure level. Because the minimum requirement for Divine Might of Destiny is for the martial artist to have Azure level spirit power. Master, your spirit power is now at the pinnacle of the diamond level. If you make another breakthrough, it will be Azure level. So, the most important thing for you now is for you to have Azure level spirit power when you break through to the Divine Will Transformation stage. I'll give you the Divine Might of Destiny so that you can learn this super battle skill. Lin Jun's eyes lit up. How powerful is Divine Might of Destiny? It can kill people whose spirit power is inferior to yours. However, it takes time to cultivate and condense spirit power into a bundle. This requires a gradual process. But Master, don't underestimate this skill. The sooner you learn Divine Might of Destiny, the higher your future achievements will be. If you can learn Divine Might of Destiny when you first enter the Divine Will Transformation stage, then I can't say for sure. In short, there's no such precedent because no one has been able to grasp Azure level spirit power at your stage. At the very least, you have to be at the Divine World stage. Lin Jun's spirit power had been through many fortuitous encounters. It could be said that it was very strong. So far, he had met people at the Divine Will Transformation stage and Divine World stage. The highest achievement he had met was at the same level as him. If he wanted to have Azure level spirit power, he had to be at the Divine Stone stage at the very least. It was only at this moment that Lin Jun came to a realization. No wonder when he was cultivating, he always felt that he had not completed something and did not want to break through. But now, he realized that his spirit power was not strong enough. Divine Will Transformation stage cultivated spirit power. Spirit power turned into Divine Will, which was the telekinesis of the gods. Although it had a different name, Lin Jun could not see Mount Tai. I understand. Thank you, Chris. Lin Jun raised his hand and pulled Chris down from his shoulder. He hugged her round face and kissed her fiercely. Chris had transformed, but it was not a real body. It was a highly condensed form of energy. But when hugged, it was no different from a real child. Chris was kissed by Lin Jun without any resistance. Her face immediately turned red. Master, Although my appearance is that of a child, my mind is set as an adult. Do you think this is appropriate? Okay, I'll pay attention next time. Lin Jun said sincerely. Oomph. I'll believe you one more time. Chris wiped her face. Then you should start quickly. After mastering Azure Spirit Power, immediately break through to Divine Will Transformation. At that time, the planetary cemetery will welcome a large army. Lin Jun nodded. His eyes lit up again. If he learned Divine Might Destiny, he would be invincible in a place like the planetary cemetery. At the very least, he would be able to kill people invisibly. This way, his warrior star level would rapidly increase. After making up his mind, Lin Jun temporarily stopped all other cultivation. Lin Jun had his own unique way of cultivating spirit power. That was to condense a star in a black hole. Lin Jun had obtained the planetary mountain. After his continuous improvement, he already had the basic conditions to form a star. Lin Jun needed to use spirit power to continuously drive the energy elements, mainly light and fire, into the star so that it would one day become a real star. Don't forget that Lin Jun had a trump card, Star Explosion. Only by using a real star to explode would Lin Jun's most powerful trump card. However, this move was basically a one-time use. With Lin Jun's current speed, condensing a star would take at least 300 to 500 years. Back then, Lin Jun simply stopped because condensing a star was too time-consuming. However, today, in order to cultivate his spirit power, Lin Jun once again picked up this foolish old man's mountain-like plan and started cultivating again. Condensing a star with spirit power can greatly temper my spirit power. Combined with my spirit power pills, I might be able to achieve something within 3 months. Let's go into seclusion. 3 months later, it will be time for me to break through. 6 times the time deceleration meant 18 months for Lin Jun. His main body condensed a star in a room, while his clone cultivated Rakshasa in another room. Both of these tasks were heavy responsibilities. If it were anyone else, even if they waited until the eye of the storm ended, they still wouldn't have any achievements. But Lin Jun used his great willpower and wisdom to begin the long process of cultivation once more. To him, cultivation was a form of happiness, a form of growth. To be able to learn the divine might of heaven's mandate at the early divine transformation realm, this was a great attraction to Lin Jun. In the vault of space, beams of light cut through the distance. These beams of light were extremely fast, approaching the speed of light as they rushed into the skies of the planetary cemetery. Bang, bang. Heavy footsteps sounded as the 3 martial artists landed on the planet's graveyard. As the light dissipated, several valiant martial artists revealed their true faces. Ha! We've arrived. We've finally arrived at the planetary cemetery. This time, our 3 brothers from Samgarama City have finally taken the lead. That's right, we've finally taken the lead. But we can't stop here. We have to go deeper into the planetary cemetery as quickly as possible. The people behind us will soon arrive. If we go first, we'll be able to seize a bit more of an advantage. Let's go. If we encounter those bastards from the endless races, we'll just directly kill them. The 3 martial artists set off once more. Behind them, specks of light appeared in the universe. It wasn't just the surface races that were like this, but the endless races as well. Chapter 9-10. The warriors who came to the planetary graveyard were mostly in the divine will and celestial realm. There were also a few in the divine stone realm. Although the planetary graveyard was huge, the number of divine stones it contained might not be more than the Stagger continent. That was because those who died on the Stagger continent were all in the divine stone realm or demigod realm. Each of them had many divine stones in their bodies. Although the number of deaths was small, the total number of divine stones was no less than the planetary graveyard. Another reason was that the planetary graveyard had very few supreme-grade spirit treasures. Most of them were middle-grade and high-grade. There were no absolute treasures at all. It was just like the difference between high-level and low-level maps in online games. 10 pieces of equipment from low-level maps could not compare to 1 piece from high-level maps. However, The Stagger continent was an area where high-level warriors roamed freely. Low-level warriors would be courting death if they went there. That was an unwritten rule. There was a core area in the planetary graveyard. There used to be a giant planet here called Neptune. Its size was the top of the planet and was much larger than the average star. With this planet as the core, a large area around it was the core location of the battle that had broken out. Although it had been swept by the eye of the storm twice, the number of divine stones and treasures here was still far above other areas. This was also the place where warriors gathered the most. It was the center of the war. After a large number of martial artists arrived, they banded together in groups and headed to the Blue Sea Star area. Once the surface races and the endless races met, and there was a difference in strength, it meant the beginning of a great war. Warriors in the Divine Stone realm were basically the strongest in the planetary graveyard. They were the ultimate fighting force. Neptune. This was a magical planet. It was different from all the other planets in the planetary graveyard. This was a living planet. During the Divine War, countless planets collided with each other. The planets were shattered and their energy was destroyed. Most of them died. However, Neptune was different. This planet had an extremely large volume. The collision did not completely kill it. Moreover, it was located at the core of the planetary graveyard. The energy of other planets flowed along the ley lines formed here and finally gathered on Neptune. Hundreds of rivers flowed from the east to the sea. This was the origin of Neptune's name. The infusion of this energy allowed Neptune to gradually recover. This enormous planet attracted countless warriors. It could be said that at least 50% of the treasures in the planetary graveyard were concentrated here. Chun Yuan and Arudi followed the seven-god realm martial artists and formed a team of 9 people. After a year of trekking, they arrived at the planet's graveyard at Songhai Star. Unlike the other planets, which were gray, there were specks of green here. Wow! After living for tens of thousands of years, this is the first time I feel that green is so beautiful. This might be the feeling of ordinary people walking in the desert and encountering an oasis. Arudi looked at the distant planet and sighed. The 9-god realm cultivators flew towards Songhai Star. It's too big. Where should we go? According to the experience from 9 million years ago, there's a mountain on Neptune called Sky Pillar Mountain. Because Neptune is located at the core of this planet, it has been subjected to countless impacts and squeezes, causing the planet to be slightly deformed. The North Pole at the top has been squeezed until it protrudes a lot. That is Sky Pillar Mountain. When we look at it from afar, we can even see a small tip on the planet. That is it. The Pillar of Heaven's mountain is the dragon head of the entire Neptune star. It's also a volcano. Neptune star's interior isn't as stable as a normal planet. Every once in a while, the Pillar of Heaven's mountain will erupt. The divine stones, spirit treasures, and other things in the core will erupt along with the volcano. When that happens, it's time for everyone to strike it rich. Oh, there's such a magical place. Let's go take a look now. Maybe we can catch the eruption. Okay, let's go. These martial artists immediately sped up in high spirits. They passed through the atmosphere of Neptune and headed towards the North Pole. Everyone here was a divine transformation realm master, so their flying speed was extremely fast. Before long, they had arrived at the northern part of Neptune. In the distance, the Sky Pillar Mountain was still emitting thick smoke. It was unknown whether it had erupted not too long ago or if it would erupt soon. Everyone knew that the majority of people had already arrived at the planetary cemetery. It was likely that many people would choose to come to Neptune. There would definitely be many people at the Sky Pillar Mountain. Several people immediately sped up, trying to seize a favorable position. Arudi was speeding up when Chun Yuan pulled him back. Senior apprentice brother Chun, what's wrong? Chun Yuan frowned. Arudi, don't be so fast. Even if there's an eruption, it might not be at this time. It won't be long before it erupts. Keep an eye on things. Don't forget that we are facing endless races. It shouldn't be that dangerous, right? It's hard to say. Our speed isn't the fastest, but can't you feel it? It's so quiet in front of us that it's a bit scary. Normally speaking, shouldn't there be many martial artists in front of us? Arudi heard Chun Yuan's analysis and nodded. He slowed down. Just as they passed through the atmosphere and were about to land on the Sky Pillar Mountain, a sudden change occurred. In the space in front of them, there were spatial fluctuations. Countless martial artists of endless races that had been hiding in the air appeared. Ha ha ha. Another wave of people has come to die. Everyone, let's go. Don't let a single one of them escape. Let's kill all these trash from the surface races. Hundreds of martial artists of endless races, under the leadership of several divine stone powerhouses, rushed over from all directions. Chun Yuan's squad fell into a hopeless situation. Facing the overwhelming attacks of the endless races, they simply didn't have the strength to resist. They could only put up some light resistance. After a single round, the 7 divine world masters in front of them were all killed. Their inner world shattered. The divine stones and treasures they had collected all fell out. Hurry! There are still 2 more here. Don't let them escape. 3 divine stone powerhouses and dozens of divine world powerhouses swarmed over at an extremely high speed. When Arudi saw such a scene, he knew that he wouldn't be able to escape. He roared and waved the battle axe in his hand. He crossed paths with a divine stone powerhouse. A light flashed past, and Arudi's body was blown up. So strong. Arudi had fallen. Chun Yuan tried to escape, but he couldn't break free from the encirclement of a group of divine world masters. It's over. I'd rather die than die in your hands. If you want the divine stones, then take them. Don't touch my body with your dirty hands. I'll always be a martial artist of the surface races. Chun Yuan shook his hand. His inner world opened up, and all the treasures and divine stones inside swarmed out. Seeing that his inner world was emptied, Chun Yuan waved the sword in his hand again and resolutely cut his own throat. Splat! Blood splattered everywhere. Chun Yuan's head was almost chopped off. He died on the spot, and his corpse tumbled down from the air. A group of martial artists of countless races rushed over and followed Chun Yuan's corpse to the ground. A tiger devil martial artist walked over and scanned with his mind power. He said to a divine stone powerhouse behind him, "Sir, he's already dead. Should we destroy his corpse?" The Godstone expert also probed for a bit, then sighed. "Forget it. This person is a true warrior. I admire his backbone. Let's leave him with an intact corpse." With that, the divine stone powerhouse raised his hand, grabbed a piece of soil around him, and buried Chun Yuan. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. This Neptune star is also your final destination. You're not the first, and you won't be the last. Rest in peace. After doing all this, the divine stone powerhouse of the devil race revealed a strange smile. It's really strange that I would do such a thing. Forget it. I'll treat it as being kind once in a while. Let's go. Let's ambush the next group of people and make all the races of the surface unable to return. Ha ha ha. Those warriors soared up into the sky. One of the Godstone warriors took out a treasure and fiddled with it. Then, those demon clan warriors hid in the distant void and disappeared. Chun Yuan's group was not the last. There were still martial artists of the surface races coming in waves. However, under the arrangements of the countless races, they basically did not return. Everyone had lost their lives here, lost everything, but the warriors behind them were still unaware of it. This Neptune star Tianju mountain area was like a burning fire. They were like moths to the fire. One after another, they came to their deaths. No one knew how many had died here. Below the soil, the spatial ring on Chun Yuan's hand opened automatically. A small metal robot appeared inside. The metal robot's movements were very agile. There was even a pill in one of its metal hands. Chun Yuan had already set it to move automatically. When Chun Yuan saw the countless races, it had already done so. The metal robot automatically stuffed the pill into Chun Yuan's mouth. It had completed its mission. If Lin Jin was here, he would definitely recognize that the pill in the metal robot's hand was the 9 transformation golden pill that he had refined. After taking the pill, Chun Yuan's wound slowly healed. A few minutes later, Chun Yuan opened his eyes. He did not dare to stay any longer. He immediately dived into the ground slowly, avoiding all the places that could be discovered. He ran in the opposite direction of Neptune's star. Chapter 9:11. In Lin Jun's underground room, his cultivation had reached a critical moment. Above his head, the black hole spiraled. Within the nebula was a massive, blazing fireball. If someone could survive within the black hole, they would discover that this fireball was in fact a miniature star. Under the state of time deceleration, Lin Jun constantly poured light and firepower into this star, causing it to form a basic star core. Although there was still a long way to go before the star was fully formed, it still contained a terrifying amount of power. 3 destructive divine thunders were hidden within the black hole, ready to erupt at any moment with a heaven-shaking, killing power. Lin Jun's soul force revolved around the star, driving the energy elements into it once more. Waves of stabbing pain spread through his mind. Lin Jun knew that this was a sign that he was about to make a breakthrough. With a flip of his hand, he took out a soul force pill that he had already prepared. He swallowed down the soul force pill. CSI. Lin Jun sucked in several breaths of cold air. The massive impact of the pill had caused his soul force to begin a breakthrough. His released soul force fiercely returned. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A fiery snake appeared on the surface of the star. A blue light was born within Lin Jun's spiritual sea. In the center of this diamond-like soul force, at the very center, there was a tiny molecule that changed from a colorless diamond to a sky blue color. The appearance of this cyan color was like a plague that spread everywhere. Under the huge push of the spiritual power pill, more and more of the diamond color turned into a sky blue color. 1%, 3%, 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%. After such a long period of cultivation, Lin Jun's soul force had reached 30% of the sky blue color. Master, immediately prepare to make another breakthrough and enter the divine transformation realm. But at the same time, you must cultivate according to the chance I gave you. Do not slack off. The divine might mandate of heaven will form at this moment. On Lin Jun's shoulder, the chubby Chris waved his little hands and commanded. When he was excited, he jumped up and down, revealing his little white underwear. Understood. Lin Jun agreed and swallowed another pill. This time, what he swallowed was a pill that would allow him to enter the divine transformation realm. He swallowed a large number of pills, and a surge of medicinal power that was many times stronger than when his spiritual power broke through emerged. At this time, the medicinal efficacy attacked the barrier between Lin Jun and the divine transformation realm. Lin Jun's third blooming stage, astral power, had already reached the point of overflowing, and the barrier was instantly shattered by the large amount of medicinal power. His astral power and spiritual power had undergone tremendous changes at the same time. Inside his dantian, the barrier was broken. His astral energy seemed to be boiling as it surged wildly in all directions. There were several crucial stages in a martial artist's cultivation. One was the entry level, one was the star realm, one was the black hole, one was the longevity realm, and the last was the divine transformation realm. Entering the door was the most crucial moment in building one's foundation. If one couldn't enter the door, then there would be no future. The warriors, generals, and gods that followed could only be considered small stages. The star realm was also a very important stage. If one couldn't reach the star crystal realm, then a martial artist wouldn't even have the ability to leave a planet. They could only live in a corner of the planet, watching the sky from the bottom of a well. After the star realm, there were star cores, meteors, comets, satellites, planets, and stars. These were all considered small stages. The black hole realm was a martial artist's life or death tribulation. It was almost inevitable. Unless a martial artist's talent was too poor and they couldn't break through to the 9th level of the star realm, then there was nothing to say. Otherwise, they would have to face the black hole realm. After the black hole realm, as long as a martial artist patiently cultivated and didn't get killed midway, they would have a lifespan of 10,000 years. The nebula, star domain, and world king realms that followed could only be considered small stages. Then came the crucial immortal stage. At this stage, one wouldn't die, wouldn't be threatened by illness, and wouldn't have their body deteriorate. The third blooming stage that followed could only be considered small stages. Then came the divine transformation realm. This was the beginning of a martial artist's journey towards becoming a god. Once one reached the divine transformation realm, they would have the characteristics of a god and would gradually break away from the realm of a martial artist. The divine consciousness, divine world, and divine stone realms that followed could only be considered small stages. Of course, there was the final and most crucial step, becoming a god. However, one could refine divine crystals to become a god, so in a sense, it wasn't very difficult. These small breakthroughs weren't particularly helpful in increasing one-star power. Only the promotion of the key steps was the key moment for a martial artist's strength to grow. Lin Jun's star power was as high as 450 million. This standard was actually close to the minimum standard of the divine stone realm. The minimum standard of the divine consciousness realm was 100 million. The divine world realm was 300 million, and the minimum standard of the divine stone realm was 500 million. However, at the divine stone realm, one-star power would be at least 600 to 700 million. Therefore, although Lin Jun could fight against the peak of the divine world, he still wasn't a match for the divine stone realm. Of the 450 million star power, only 300 million came from Lin Jun's body. The rest came from his inner world. If it was a small stage breakthrough, Lin Jun's star power would only double the 300 million star power. However, it was different after entering the divine transformation realm. When Lin Jun's divine consciousness began to transform, all of his star power became one and directly doubled. At this moment, Lin Jun was like a body of light that was about to explode. His eyes, nose, ears, and mouth, his 7 orifices, and every pore on his body were exuding vigorous energy. Streaks of starlight seemed to be solid as they constantly whipped the surrounding walls, creating small holes like bullet marks. Lin Jun fiercely raised his head and let out a roar. This powerful strength gave him a strong desire to fight. 900 million star power. Lin Jun had never felt so powerful before. From the 3-flower realm to the divine transformation realm, this change was simply too great. Master, divine might, and mandate. Crazy's voice enlightened Lin Jun, who was intoxicated by the power, in an instant. Lin Jun was a little ashamed of his loss of self-control just now. He immediately adjusted his state of mind. Ignoring the boiling star power in his body and the expanding dantian, he directly began to control his mind power. According to the method Crazy gave him, he began to practice this secret technique that shouldn't belong to a martial artist in the divine will realm. In his spiritual sea, the sky blue mind power began to gather. Lin Jun meditated with his palms facing the sky, allowing his mental strength to spread towards the sky. His mind power penetrated the soil of the basement and the surface of planet Linda. Like a pillar of light, it suddenly burst forth. The dark energy in the universe filled the air. According to the mental cultivation method, the mind power and the dark energy merged into one. This mental cultivation method wouldn't strengthen the mind power, but it could reduce the obstruction of the universe to the mind power, allowing the mind power to explore further. Master, don't use your vision. Don't use your eyes to see. Use your powerful mind power to feel. Now that you're an expert in the divine will transformation realm, your mind power is your weapon. It's your eyes, the eyes that can explore this boundless universe. Use your vision to see. You can only feel light and darkness. Your speed will forever be limited to the speed of light. In this universe, the only thing that can exceed the speed of light is your mind power. Hearing Chris's reminder, Lin Jun's mind power entered a mysterious state. That's right, mind power. Mind power is the only way to break the limit of the speed of light. Using my mind power to feel, as long as my mind power can cover a place, I can reach it in an instant. Space precept. This is the profound meaning of the fusion of space precept and mind power. Transcending space to feel, transcending space to move forward, to cover, to attack, to kill. This is the strongest use of divine will. It's a move that belongs to the gods. Now, it belongs to me, Lin Jun. Ahi! Whoosh! The azure light beam suddenly broke through the boundaries of space and headed toward the depths of the planet's graveyard. There was no distance, no need to move forward. As long as Lin Jun's mind power could support it, this mind power could move forward infinitely. Lin Jun's early-stage azure mind power, under the support of the space precept, instantly lost its restraints. Before Lin Jun broke through to azure, his diamond-level mind power could only cover a distance of 10 million kilometers, which was the range of a giant planet. But now, this distance had increased by tens of thousands of times. He could reach a range of hundreds of billions of kilometers in an instant. This distance was equivalent to 10 days at the speed of light. According to the speed of light, a distance of 300,000 kilometers per second was an unbelievable distance. Lin Jun's mind power spread out and shot out hundreds of billions of kilometers. Everything on this path was seen by him. He saw the breeze flowing, the dark energy permeating the air, some people digging for divine stones, and some people fighting. This was a god's perspective. Lin Jun could attack anyone at will, but he did not do so. Then, he saw a person running wildly. Chen Yuan. Not long after Chen Yuan left Vast Sea Star, he was targeted by 2 devil race martial artists. Chen Yuan's plan was good. He used the 9 transformation golden pill to resurrect himself. As expected, he hid from the devil race and escaped from Vast Sea Star. But he underestimated the devil race's arrangements. The endless races did not intend to give the surface races any chance. They set up many hidden sentries around Vast Sea Star. When the surface races entered, they did not care. But when they left, they had to care. Seeing that Chen Yuan was a fish that escaped the net, the 2 devil race martial artists immediately chased after him. Chen Yuan was no match for 2 God Realm pinnacle powerhouses. But Chen Yuan was not for nothing. He ran for his life and forcibly escaped the core area of the planet's graveyard. He had been on a run for half a month. Chapter 9:12. When Chen Yuan escaped, he could only choose to escape in other directions because the direction of the surface races had been blocked by the endless races. At this moment, he no longer dared to hope to find God stones here. He only wanted to escape from the planet graveyard. There were God stones in other places, but there were very few of them. However, at least there was no danger to his life. My request is actually not high. I just want to exchange for God's crystal here. Then, I will find a place to concentrate on cultivation and never come out again. You must let me escape this disaster. The ground flew under his feet. His speed had been pushed to the limit, but the distance between him and the pursuers was getting closer and closer. It was not that Chen Yuan was not running fast enough. Secondly, the 2 devils took turns to chase him. When one was chasing, the other would enter the other's inner world to rest. When this person was tired, the one who was resting would come out and take his place. He would enter the inner world to rest. Such a battle of attrition did not give Chen Yuan any time to rest. At this moment, his physical star power had been exhausted to the extreme. Gods of the surface races, can't you open your eyes and take a look? The people of the endless races set a trap and wantonly killed the surface races. If this continues, the surface races will be defeated in the eye of the storm. If all the experts in this star field are killed, then the army of the endless races will choose to break in from here and occupy our city as their territory. This star field will be the breakthrough for the endless races to go to the surface. Chen Yuan's heart was bleeding for his tragic fate and for the miserable fate of the surface races. However, he knew that the gods were high and mighty. The gods had their own worlds and basically did not come into contact with warriors. Even if there were people who could come into contact with the gods, they would at least be in the Hall of the Exalted or King-level experts, not Chen Yuan, a mediocre God Realm expert. No god would break the rules between the gods to save him. However, there was no one around at this moment. Who else could save him except the gods? Therefore, his fate seemed to have been decided. I can't hold on any longer. Chen Yuan, who was extremely exhausted, stopped. He began to mobilize the last bit of star power. Even if he had to self-destruct, he wanted to maintain the last bit of dignity. The devil warriors chasing behind him stopped. His companions also came out from his inner world. One was the Lion Devil clan, and the other was the Blood Devil clan. Hee, little trash from the surface races. You're pretty fast, huh? He ran across half of the planet's graveyard like a rabbit. But what could he do? In the end, you can't avoid death. Damn it. You've been running for so long that I'm sick of it. This time, I'm going to eat you alive. The Lion Demon clan's martial artist was already very angry. Seeing Chun Yuan stop and speak a few words, the Lion Demon clan's martial artist immediately rushed forward. A gigantic lion head appeared in the air. It opened its bloody mouth and was about to swallow Chun Yuan whole. Chun Yuan fiercely gritted his teeth. Come, even if I die, I will drag you down with me. The astral power in his body burst out. Chun Yuan was about to explode. Bang! Before Chun Yuan could self-destruct, something strange happened. The massive head of the Lion Demon martial artist that had rushed over instantly exploded. Red and white blood and brain matter sprayed all over Chun Yuan's body. The headless corpse fell limply to the ground at Chun Yuan's feet. It was hard to imagine that this was a lion demon who had just wanted to eat Chun Yuan. He was at the peak of the god realm, yet he died in front of Chun Yuan in such a muddle-headed manner. This matter was actually very frightening. Chun Yuan and the blood demon were stunned on the spot. They looked left and right, front and back, but there was not even a shadow. They had no idea who had killed the Lion Demon clan. Who is it? The Blood Demon clan's martial artist stuttered. No one answered. Suddenly, a light flashed in Chun Yuan's mind, and he couldn't help but blurt out, Divine might and will. Ha ha! This is divine might and will. A god has made a move. A god has appeared. Chun Yuan couldn't help but kneel on the ground excitedly. I don't know which great god made a move to help this junior kill the enemy. Please give me a hint. Chun Yuan will definitely offer incense to great God for the rest of my life. Hearing the words divine might and will, the Blood Demon clan's martial artist trembled all over. If it was a god who had made a move, he definitely wouldn't be able to survive. However, he still had a trace of hope. What if it wasn't a god? Seeing Chun Yuan kneeling on the ground, the Blood Demon clan's martial artist made up his mind. If it was a blessing, it wouldn't be a disaster. If it was a disaster, he couldn't avoid it. He might as well take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of Chun Yuan. Quietly approaching Chun Yuan's back, the Blood Demon clan's martial artist pulled out his saber and prepared to attack. Bam! Another unbelievably powerful mental attack fell from the sky and directly hit the Blood Demon clan's martial artist's head. Another head exploded like a big watermelon, and the Blood Demon's corpse fell behind Chun Yuan with a plop. However, this time, Chun Yuan didn't even turn his head. The god had already made a move, and he didn't need to worry about anything. What he was concerned about at this moment was that the god would take him in as a disciple. Then, Chun Yuan, would be rich. Although he came from the Fallen Star Lake, he wasn't considered a disciple of the Fallen Star Lake. He could only be considered a student there. It wouldn't prevent him from becoming a disciple in the future. If a martial artist had a master, there was a huge difference between not having a master and not having one. Especially at his realm, the strength of a master was unimaginable. Since the god had saved him, maybe it was because he had taken a fancy to his aptitude. He could even feel a terrifying mental power cruising in the sky. The owner of this mental power wasn't here at all, but could kill 2 peak divine realm martial artists in the sky. If this wasn't a god, what was it? Chun Yuan's heart was filled with reverence, fear, excitement, and other emotions. After a while, Chun Yuan felt the mental power leave. At this moment, Chun Yuan was extremely disappointed. The god didn't take a fancy to him. It's over, it's over. The god must have despised my aptitude and refused to take me in. He didn't even want to leave his name. Kneeling there, Chun Yuan was extremely dejected. However, to be able to cultivate to this level, his mentality was also very strong. After a while, he adjusted himself. No, how can I give up so easily? If I'm sincere, I must find the whereabouts of this great god and have him take me in as a disciple. There's nothing in this world that is difficult as long as I'm willing to do it. After sorting out his thoughts, Qin Yuan thought for a while. The god should still be in the planet's cemetery area, and it might be in an area not too far away. The most likely place was in front of him. Even if he had to turn over inch by inch and dig 3 feet into the ground, Qin Yuan would find the god that saved him. At the same time, he had to collect godstones and use the golden loudspeaker to inform all the martial artists on the ground about the situation on planet Neptune. After using the god's might to kill 2 pinnacle god realm martial artists, Lin Zhen's mental power returned to his body. The god's might ignored the martial artist's star power and was purely a long-range mental attack. Under the same level of mental power, the god's might was basically useless. For example, Lin Zhen's current 30% Azure mental power couldn't kill martial artists who had just entered the Azure level. However, under the Azure level, Lin Zhen could definitely kill them in an instant. Saving Qin Yuan was just a matter of convenience. Lin Zhen didn't have time to care about too many things right now. His breakthrough wasn't over yet. After grasping the god's might, Lin Zhen's breakthrough was also coming to an end. After doubling his star power to 900 million, Lin Zhen's strength was comparable to an ordinary early-stage God Realm martial artist. Lin Zhen even had the strength to fight against some of the weaker intermediate-stage God Realm martial artists. Separating his hands, Lin Zhen opened his mouth and let out a mouthful of turbid air. Cultivation complete. Congratulations, Master. Congratulations, Master. Congratulations, Master, on reaching the divine will transformation. Your strength is now above average in the entire planet's graveyard. You can fight an ordinary God Realm martial artist. Lin Zhen closed his eyes. Above average? Yes, Master. Above average is already very powerful. Lin Zhen shook his head. No, this is an awkward stage. I can fight against God Realm martial artists, but I don't have much of an advantage. I have to be very careful when I go out. This isn't what I want. Then Master means? With a thought from Lin Xin, the treasure-hunting tongue that was cruising outside returned. During this time, the treasure-hunting vine had accumulated more than 10,000 godstones. It wasn't that it was lazy, but that the godstones on planet Linda were almost all collected. Now, it couldn't even find 100 godstones a day. Lin Zhen extended his hand, and an energy sword shot out of his palm. He cut the treasure-hunting vine open and continued absorbing its juice. Master, you still have to cultivate. I thought you would come out after reaching the divine will transformation. Lin Zhen shook his head. No, I won't. With the treasure-hunting vine, I can quickly cultivate to the pinnacle of the spiritual force transformation stage. By then, I won't be afraid of the Godstone realm anymore. I'll have a foothold here on the planet's graveyard. Master, you're right. At that time, God Realm martial artists won't be your match. Even if you face a demigod, I believe Master can protect himself. Lin Zhen smiled and didn't say anything. He had already planned this. Since I'm going to cultivate, I'll just raise my strength to the limit. He had pills now, so why not cultivate to the peak of the divine will transformation? If Lin Zhen had pills for the God Realm, then he could cultivate to the peak of the God Realm. At that time, Lin Zhen would be able to kill a demigod. After absorbing the treasure-hunting vine's juice and dissolving the effects, Lin Zhen changed the treasure-hunting vine's blood. After entering the divine will transformation, the treasure-hunting vine could find low-grade treasures. Go on, my darling. Find me more godstones and treasures, but don't let anyone find you. Chapter 9:13. At the planet's graveyard, the arrangement of the endless races could be said to be very successful. Unlike the races on the ground, this operation in the eye of the storm was personally planned by the Emperor race's Ju-Tian. Most of the people from the endless races had accepted the orders of the Ju-Tian. Although collecting godstones to exchange for treasures was important, killing the races on the ground was the priority. After a large number of demon race warriors entered the eye of the storm, they did not collect godstones. Instead, they rushed at full speed and arrived at the planet's graveyard first to set up an ambush. When the races on the ground arrived, they were immediately destroyed. The warriors of the surface races had all come in small teams, and it just so happened that they were wiped out by the concentrated forces of the endless races. For 20 days, These 20 days were dark. When the warriors on the ground came to the planet's graveyard, except for Chun Yuan, no one survived. The people in front died, but the people behind did not know. Every day, more than 10,000 people died in the Shanghai region. In these 20 days, the number of warriors on the ground who died was close to 300,000. One had to know that the total number of people on the ground who entered the eye of the storm was only 500,000. This time, two-thirds of them were gone. Some experts went to the crisscross continent, and some wandered in other places. Currently, there were less than 100,000 warriors in the planet's graveyard. This was because the ground warrior Qin Yuan had finally collected 20 godstones yesterday and sent a warning to all the races on the ground. All my compatriots on the ground, do not rashly go to Shanghai Star. The warriors of the endless races have set up an inescapable net there. If you go, you will die. I was lucky to escape with the help of Sage Lin Zhan's 9 Transformations Golden Pill. I hope that the experts on the ground can see this message and help us ordinary warriors seek justice. Qin Yuan's message was like a super bomb, causing all the warriors on the ground to boil. The other warriors also had many guesses. For example, they saw fewer and fewer people in the planet's graveyard, and they often saw warriors of the endless races appearing in groups. It was difficult for the races on the ground to survive, and so on. Now, everyone realized that the warriors on the ground were all dead. At this time, not many people were stingy with their godstones. They exchanged for loudspeakers and began to curse. The golden loudspeaker was used by the human race, and the silver loudspeaker was used by the demon race. Or, they simply used both loudspeakers at the same time. Scum of the endless races. Everyone came to the eye of the storm to seek wealth. Do you really think that there's no one left for us to ambush us like this? Damn it, I can't take it anymore. Brothers, come with me. Let's go to Shanghai Star and fight these bastards. Brother, you have guts. I, Dong Xuanzi of Demon Moon City, am willing to go with you. Count me in. I, Li Tianba of Xianluo City, have long been annoyed by these bastards. Let's go together. Count me in. Avenge your brothers. Can't you, simple-minded people, calm down? Is there any use in rushing over so stupidly? The enemy has the advantage in numbers and has already taken over the entire Neptunian planet. Aren't you going to die if you go there? Other than adding a little red color to the other party's military medal, it's useless. Stop being so sarcastic. You don't dare to go, yet you don't allow others to go. Don't tell me that our brothers died for nothing. F***CK. What did I say that? What I meant was that if we want to reverse the situation on Neptunian planet and the planetary graveyard, we have to wait for the elites of the Stagger continent to come back. Let's see who knows which elites. We can only be saved if we find some of them. The heated discussion among the races on the ground was rampant in the dimensional universe. However, at this time, the Hall of the Exalted Elite from the Endless Races, Blood Shadow, spoke. I, Blood Shadow, am warning all the martial artists of the surface races on the Stagger continent. You'd better not go back and participate in the planetary graveyard. Otherwise, the Endless Race Army will do our best. Even if we don't collect the Divine Stones, we'll wipe you all out. That's right. I am the Azura King of the Demon Race. Every level has its own war. You'd better know your place. Everyone should live in peace. Those who meddle in other people's business will never have a good ending. Even if you come, you'll die. I, Ghost Race's Lord of the Underworld, am on Neptunian planet. If you don't agree, come. One by one, the elites of the Endless Races spoke. Their tone was threatening and full of killing intent. As for the elites of the surface races, they chose to remain silent. They were absolutely unwilling to go to Neptunian planet from the Stagger continent. The planetary graveyard did not have as many divine stones as the Stagger continent. Even if they were demigods or kings, they might not be able to gain any benefits from going to Neptunian planet. Moreover, those who died were unrelated to them. If they died, so be it. What did it have to do with them? Talking about revenge or not was simply nonsense. These martial artists' hearts were as hard as steel. No one had a selfless spirit. At this stage, everyone pursued their own strength. seeing that the elites of the surface races, including all of the exalted elites like Laughing Over All Life, Heartless King, and Soul-Chasing King, did not speak, some of the martial artists cursed. However, they did not dare to call out names. Otherwise, those elites would not dare to go to the endless races. It would be easy for them to come back and kill them. Some of the more radical ones really chose to go to Neptunian planet to seek justice. In the end, they did not return. Most of the martial artists chose to fight outside of Neptunian planet. However, because there were too few of them, they were at an absolute disadvantage. Neptunian planet, a golden treasure, was completely occupied by the endless races. Long live the Jew, Tion Emperor. Ha! Little trash of the surface races. Why don't you dare to come? Grandpa is waiting for you here. Are all of you hiding in women's pants? Trash. Your future is either to become dust or to become slaves. The martial artists of the planetary graveyard were still holding on and resisting. They all hoped to increase their strength or that a certain elite would come back and lead them to a decisive battle. However, if the situation continued to develop, this hope was getting smaller and smaller. At the end of the second year after the Eye of the Storm opened, Lin Jun mastered the sevenfold time deceleration. With the sevenfold time deceleration, one day for Lin Jun was equivalent to 7 days. This gave him plenty of time. Temporarily stopping the time deceleration training, Lin Jun began to focus on increasing his level. At the beginning of the third year, Lin Jun entered the middle stage of the divine will transformation. The leap from the early stage to the middle stage gave Lin Jun an increase of 200 million star power. After 3 months of the third year, Lin Jun increased his mind power to 50% of the Azure Realm and completely stabilized at the middle stage. At the end of the third year, Lin Jun made another breakthrough and entered the late stage of the divine will transformation. With another 200 million star power increase, Lin Jun's total star power reached 1.3 billion. This was already extremely powerful. The entry level of the Divine Stone Realm was 500 million star power. The more powerful ones only had 1 billion star power, which was already very good. Only a few geniuses in the Divine Stone Realm had more than 1 billion star power. Lin Jun's current star power was comparable to that of a demigod. When a martial artist wanted to break through to the Divine Stone Realm and become a demigod after failing, the minimum star power of a demigod was 1 billion star power. However, Lin Jun did not choose to come out of seclusion. He continued to train underground. At the end of the third year, he finally reached the pinnacle of the divine will transformation. With another 200 million star power increase, Lin Jun's star power reached an unprecedented 1.5 billion star power. This amount of star power made him an elite even among the demigods. At the same time as Lin Jun, his doppelganger and the treasure-hunting tongue also improved. The doppelganger's level increased along with Lin Jun's. When Lin Jun reached the pinnacle of the divine will transformation, his doppelganger was already at the pinnacle of the divine world. However, at this time, Lin Jun's star power had finally caught up with his doppelganger. Both his doppelganger and his doppelganger had reached 1.5 billion star power. In fact, his combat power had already surpassed his doppelganger. Although his doppelganger was a 5-element Qilin, it was still slightly weaker than the Black Hole Beast. The Black Hole Beast stood at the peak of all the mutant galactic beasts. His doppelganger had not been idle for the past 3 years. It had successfully comprehended the 7th diagram of the Shadowless Steppes. After a few years of growth, the treasure-hunting tongue had become a powerful combat power. However, Lin Jun valued the treasure-hunting tongue's ability to find treasures. In the last 6 months, the treasure-hunting tongue had gone out for a few days without finding any divine stones. This proved that he could not stay there any longer. Lin Jun's divine stones had also stopped at 20,000. The main reason was that there were no more divine stones in the later stages. Lin Jun's current strength was already at its limit. If he wanted to continue advancing to the God Realm, he would have to either have the pill formula for the God Realm or be able to calm himself down and cultivate here for a few decades. Only then would there be a possibility of a breakthrough. There was no hope for the birth of a star for the time being. There was also no way for him to make a breakthrough in the Sunluo sword skill. There was no point for Lin Jun to continue to stay on Linda Planet. Phew, it's time to go out. Lin Jun stretched his body. It feels like I've been here for a long time. Crazy, who had been sleeping on Lin Jun's shoulder, woke up. It has indeed been a long time. Master, you've been here for 3 years. Including your time deceleration, you've actually been here for 15 years. Oh, it's been so long. I really don't know how much time has passed. I wonder what's the situation outside? Master, the situation outside is not very good. You told me not to disturb you before you cultivated, so I didn't tell you. The planet's graveyard is basically under the control of the endless races. Chapter 9:14. Seeing what had happened during this period of time, Lin Jun frowned slightly. 2 years ago, I saved Qin Yuan, but I didn't expect things to turn out like this. I didn't listen to what they said in the dimensional universe, but this place has become like this. The endless race is so vicious. We can't blame the endless race. Both sides are enemies to begin with. No matter how much they attack, it's not too much. Our people hate the endless race, and the endless race probably thinks that they are heroes. Lin Jun nodded. Of course I understand that, but I can't watch the endless race be so arrogant here. Master, are you planning to go out and show off again? This doesn't conform to a warrior's low-key behavior. Lin Jun's lips curled into a cold smile. Low profile? Why should I? I've been missing for the past few years. I'm afraid I'm about to be forgotten. I don't want to be forgotten, so I have to help them remember me. Chris spread her hands helplessly. All right, since Master insists, I have nothing to say. But I have to remind Master that the collected divine stones have to be spent. Don't let them rot in your hands. Oh, by the way, thank you for reminding me. I still have more than 20,000 divine stones. That's right. Your 20,000 divine stones are a lot. It's only been 3 years since we entered the Eye of the Storm. Everyone doesn't have much stock. If you use your 20,000 divine stones well, it will definitely increase your strength by a lot. Lin Jun immediately opened the exchange panel. If he wanted to exchange, Lin Jun felt that it was better to exchange for some supreme treasures first. He remembered that there were 9 supreme treasures on the exchange panel, but now that Lin Jun opened it, there were only 5 left. Sabers, spears, swords, halberds, shields, armors, hammers, staffs, and bows. Among them, shields, armors, swords, and sabers have been exchanged. Lin Jun felt a little regretful. Shields and armors were good goods among supreme treasures. Although the price was higher, Lin Jun also wanted them. Now, there were none left. My Imperial Sky and Huayan swords are supreme-grade spirit treasures. I can still use them for the time being. Since the swords are gone, I'll exchange them for a spear. Lin Jun looked at the supreme treasure spear on top of it. The purple gold spear was 5.5 meters long, and its weight was comparable to a small satellite. The spear itself was made from extremely precious purple gold. Purple gold was a kind of heaven and earth rare metal. It didn't have any attribute, but it was precious because it could be infused with any attribute. Low-grade, true treasures cost 7,000 godly stones. Lin Jun looked at it and felt satisfied. He spent 7,000 god stones to exchange for it. He had a total of 22,000 god stones. After spending 7,000, he still had 15,000 god stones left. Master, you can choose to exchange for cultivation techniques and other supreme treasures. They will be useful to you. Lin Jun gently waved his hand. No, I don't need any martial arts for the time being. I can't cultivate all the martial arts I have right now. I'd better learn all the martial arts I have now. As for other supreme treasures, I don't need them. I believe that I can find other supreme treasures in the future. Then what does Master want to exchange for? Exchange for divinity crystals. Lin Jun had spent divinity crystals to exchange for the ethereal divine bell. He didn't have any divinity crystals left. At this time, Chris said, Master, you don't need it, right? I think with your strength, you can cultivate to become a god sooner or later. Once you become a god, you will be one of the best among the gods. Why choose the path of refining divinity crystals? Lin Jun smiled. I'm not exchanging for myself. Even if I don't need it, my family still needs it. Linjun already had a plan in his heart. His parents' aptitudes were very poor. Now that they had cultivated to immortality, they couldn't improve. However, Lin Jun still hoped that they could become gods one day. As long as he was around, countless pills would be thrown at them. Sooner or later, they would be smashed to the Divine Stone Realm. As long as they reached the peak of the Divine Stone Realm, they would be able to refine divinity crystals. Lin Jun needed to prepare too for each of them. It was not easy to say for Su Mingwei and An Ning. Their aptitudes were not bad, but Lin Jun hadn't reached that step yet. He still needed to prepare some for his two wives. It was better to be prepared. Little Phoenix and Xian Air probably didn't need it. They were proud daughters of the primordial realm and had endless potential. They probably had hopes of becoming gods on their own. As for his three children, Lin Jun hoped that they could become gods on their own. However, just like his wives, Lin Jun needed to have a backup plan. Just his family alone needed 7 divinity crystals. Moreover, Lin Jun still had a few people to take care of. For example, the Angel Sisters and Ling had always been by their family's side. In fact, they were also Lin Jun's family. Lin Jun naturally couldn't ignore them. The aptitudes of the three of them weren't enough for them to become gods on their own. This required another 3 divinity crystals. As such, Lin Jun needed to prepare at least 10 divinity crystals. This didn't include any unexpected situations. With the remaining 15,000 divine stones, Lin Jun directly exchanged them for 5 divinity crystals. There were a total of 50 divinity crystals here. When Lin Jun exchanged them, there were already more than 20 divinity crystals left. When Lin Jun finished exchanging them, there were only a dozen divinity crystals left. What was left was a matter of speed. Lin Jun reckoned that he wouldn't be able to get any more divinity crystals even if he wanted to. After putting away the purple gold spear and the 5 divinity crystals, Lin Jun tidied up and put away the pill furnace and other things. With a raise of his hand, the treasure-hunting vine turned into an extremely thin thread-like object and wrapped around Lin Jun's wrist. It looked like a golden ornament. Looking at the basement, Lin Jun immediately jumped up. The earth elemental flower spun and broke through the surface of the ground, heading straight for the surface. It's finally my turn to shine. On the surface, a few warriors from the human race were researching something. These warriors wore the same uniform and were all employees of the Dimensional Universe Corporation. No, not employees, but senior technicians of the Dimensional Universe Corporation. This time, when the Eye of the Storm opened, the Dimensional Universe Corporation also sent people in. However, their purpose here wasn't to collect divine stones to exchange for treasures, but to open up the Dimensional Universe business and cover the Eye of the Storm with the Dimensional Universe's communications. Of course, this was a long and arduous task. Covering the Eye of the Storm wasn't something that could be completed in a day or two. However, the people from the Dimensional Universe Corporation had also made a breakthrough. They were able to transmit the images around them through the Dimensional Universe. The warriors in the Eye of the Storm could log into a temporary forum and communicate with each other. ZZ, 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 ZZ. Success, success, success. A few warriors cheered excitedly. Among them, a leader in the realm of the gods was overjoyed. Because they knew the situation inside the Eye of the Storm was dangerous, the Dimensional Universe Corporation had also made preparations. This realm of the gods' martial artist was here to report on the situation inside the Eye of the Storm. As for the major events inside the Eye of the Storm, he intended to announce it to everyone. As a member of the human race, he was very excited about what happened here. Therefore, the moment the Dimensional Universe was successfully connected, he couldn't wait to announce everything. Buzz, buzz. After a wave of electric current, the Dimensional Universe stabilized. A warrior began to record the leader. Friends, I'm Wen Tao, a reporter from the Dimensional Universe Corporation. After my company's unremitting efforts, we finally succeeded in connecting to the Eye of the Storm. Due to the uniqueness of the Eye of the Storm, it will take another 10 million years to fully cover this place. However, I can broadcast the situation inside the eye of the storm to everyone. Just 2 years ago, when the surface race and the endless race army came to the planet's cemetery, the endless race set up a trap. A trap. When Tao began to talk about the endless race's ambush, the surface race's defeat, the endless race's brutality, and the numbness of the surface race's powerhouses. When Tao tried his best to talk about things here from an objective point of view. However, in his opinion, the eye of the storm was basically over. The surface race wouldn't be able to do much. It would be good if they didn't get wiped out. As a member of the surface race, when Tao's mood was very low, this live broadcast quickly attracted a lot of attention in the endless sea of stars. People were very curious about what happened inside the eye of the storm. However, due to the interference of the light blue planet fragments, the signal couldn't pass through and people couldn't find out. They didn't expect that there would be a reporter who could broadcast from the eye of the storm. Moreover, the content of the broadcast was very explosive. The surface race was about to be wiped out. Although those high-level martialists were still there, the martialists in the planetary cemetery were about to face a disaster. Oh my God, my idol, the laughing all-life, doesn't care about the lives of ordinary warriors. His glorious image in my heart has collapsed. The Heartless King is really heartless. He doesn't care about anyone except himself. The surface race needs heroes. Where are the heroes? Don't be silly. You probably haven't even reached the 3-flower realm. These days, the higher the level of a warrior, the more selfish they are. Where are the heroes? Comments flooded the screen. Not only did the outside world know about the situation here, but even the warriors inside the eye of the storm saw it. Not far from Tao, there was a small group of Ghost Clan members moving about. The leader was a Godstone realm magistrate. He wore a black robe and held a magistrate's pen. These bastards from the Dimensional Universe Corporation can actually complete the communication in the eye of the storm. This can't be. We can't let them report too much about what happened here. Otherwise, it will ruin the Zhu Tian Emperor's plan. The ghost magistrate waved his hand. Everyone follow me. Before this matter gets too big, let's get rid of these people from the Dimensional Universe Company. If they want to report here, they can wait until their next life. Chapter 9:15. One Tao and the others did not know that there was a group of ferocious ghost race martial artists rapidly approaching. He was still broadcasting the news about the eye of the storm with the professional attitude of a reporter. There are many reasons why the martial artists of the surface races are at a disadvantage here. The sneak attack by the endless races is the biggest reason, but there are also reasons for the disharmony between the martial artists of the surface races. For example, 3 years ago, Futian City's Heartless King and Heavenly Square City's Saint-level alchemist Lin Jun had a dirty fight. They scolded each other in the dimensional universe. In the end, Lin Jun used his strong financial resources to suppress Heartless King, and the two of them formed a grudge because of this. Martial artists can be disunited usually, but infighting at such a time is really unbecoming of an expert. When Tao's words immediately triggered another round of discussion. The martial artists who came to participate in the Eye of the Storm were basically people from the dozens of cities near this starry sky. They had all heard of Lin Jun's name. As for Heartless King, needless to say, he was a veteran expert. They did not expect that the two of them would actually have conflict. This was because in the eyes of most people, although Lin Jun's reputation was not small, he still could not be compared to Heartless King. As for strength, needless to say, the difference was too great. Lin Jun is tired of living. He actually dares to argue with Heartless King. It's over, it's over. The saint-level alchemist is going to fall in the eye of the storm. Heartless King is cold-blooded and heartless. He will definitely not let this matter rest after losing face. They're all trash. They're almost killed by the endless races, but they still don't forget to fight each other. Such a person will not be respected no matter how strong he is. What trash! When Lin Jun and Heartless King were fighting, the endless races had not made a move on the surface races. That shouldn't be the case. After entering the Eye of the Storm, they should be more united. There were countless people who commented below the video, including many martial artists in the Eye of the Storm. These martial artists were also very happy. They finally had a place to communicate. Some of them even recognized Wen Tao's location. This reporter from the Dimensional Universe Corporation seems to be on planet Linda. That place is so poor that even birds don't shit. That's right. Linda Planet is the most barren place in the graveyard. I know a team that went there 3 months ago. They didn't believe it and searched for 3 months, but they didn't find a single godstone. That's a record. Be careful. If you report these things, you might attract the pursuit of countless races. F*CK. I think I saw something. Following the voice of a martial artist, everyone saw the abnormality. Behind Wen Tao, a dark cloud was pushing forward, accompanied by gusts of cold wind. Even through the screen, one could almost feel the murderous aura coming from the eye of the storm. Ghost Clan. Not good. It's a Ghost Clan martial artist. Reporter run. Someone shouted, but they couldn't help it all. It was too late for Wen Tao to escape. Wen Tao saw the reflection in the eyes of the martial artist who was in charge of filming him. The assistant's eyes were filled with fear. Through the eyes, he could see the approaching enemies. Wen Tao turned around. Those Ghost Clan martial artists were already more than 10 meters behind him. Hee. The Dimensional Universe Corporation really doesn't care about anyone just because it's the largest company in the universe. The Eye of the Storm is a war between the surface races and the endless races. Whoever wins or loses has nothing to do with the Dimensional Universe Corporation. Why are you poking your nose into other people's business and reporting? The judge of the Godstone realm was wearing a black robe and holding a judge's pen. He stared at Wen Tao with a gloomy face. Wen Tao took a deep breath. I'm not a threat to you. The Dimensional Universe Corporation isn't here to snatch the Godstones. Don't mention the Dimensional Universe Corporation. You are a giant industry, but are you bigger than the entire endless races? Since you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for being impolite. A Wu Chang behind said to the judge, Sir, don't talk nonsense with him. Just kill him. The judge nodded and waved to the people behind him. Do it. Don't leave a single one alive. 2 Wu Chang and a group of ghost race warriors, including Oxhead and Horseface, howled and charged forward. Wen Tao didn't panic too much. Since he dared to report to the Eye of the Storm, he was already prepared for danger. He raised his hand, and a flag fluttered in the wind. Treasure. Sky Concealing Flag. Once the Sky Concealing Flag appeared, it covered the sky above Wen Tao and the rest. Like rolling waves, it blocked all the attacks. More than 10 ghost race warriors attacked with all their might, but they couldn't break the defense of the Sky Concealing Flag at all. As expected of the Dimensional Universe Corporation, they're so rich that they actually have a defensive treasure. The judge's eyelids twitched. A defensive treasure wasn't that easy to break. Although it was only a low-grade treasure, it wasn't something that an ordinary divine or stage warrior could break. However, the judge didn't care too much. No matter how good a treasure was, it still needed a person to operate it. The strength of the user of this treasure was too weak. As long as they put in a little more effort, it wouldn't take long for them to exhaust the other party's magical power. At that time, the flag might even become his. Ha ha ha. What a great defensive treasure. However, it's a waste for it to be in your hands. Let me take care of it for you today. The judge rushed forward with his judge's brush and hit the Sky Concealing Flag. The flag didn't change much, but Wen Tao's expression changed. The judge's attack was so strong. As a Godstone stage warrior, he could completely suppress a God Transformation stage warrior. If it wasn't for the treasure, Wen Tao would have been seriously injured. Even so, Wen Tao couldn't hold on for long. If this continued, his astral power would be exhausted. At that time, even if he had a treasure, he wouldn't be able to resist. Under the judge's lead, the ghost race warriors swarmed forward. Countless attacks came crashing down, and all of this was broadcasted to the Dimensional Universe. Quick, 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 save this reporter. Otherwise, the surface races will be in a more passive position in the Eye of the Storm. How many surface races are near planet Linda in the planet's cemetery? Hurry up and save them. I'm here. I'm 70 million kilometers away. I'll be there in 3 minutes. My 2 companions and I will be there in 5 minutes. Reporter, hold on. The broadcast in the dimensional universe wasn't just for the surface races. The endless races could also see it. Now, in the planetary cemetery, the number of endless races was far higher than the surface races. Seeing the situation here, many warriors of the endless races rushed over. The surface races came here to save people, and they came here to annihilate the surface races. The battle that started because of the reporter suddenly broke out. Because communication could be done in the dimensional universe, everyone knew the situation here. When the first warrior of the surface races rushed to the scene and attacked the ghost race warriors, everything was out of control. This time, the people who came were basically solo warriors. Now in the planetary cemetery, the surface races were basically solo warriors. They were small targets and not easy to be discovered. Because the powerhouses of the crisscross continent were unwilling to care about the planetary cemetery, these people basically felt that there was no hope for the surface races. Because the endless races were organized and the surface races didn't communicate, how could they fight against the endless races? So this time, when they saw that a reporter had connected to the dimensional universe, all the warriors of the surface races who could rush overcame. As soon as the battle began, the sky and earth darkened. From the first person's attack, to his death, to the arrival of the second and third, and then dozens and hundreds of people. On the edge of planet Linda, which originally belonged to the surface races, they were like guerrillas who avoided the regular army. At this moment, they actually had a local advantage, and their numbers surpassed the endless races. The judge held the judge, pen in his hand, and led the ghost race warriors and hundreds of his companions who had rushed over to participate in the battle to start a chaotic battle with the surface races. However, at this moment, the surface races had the advantage in numbers. After a few counterattacks, they actually suppressed the endless races. This was a huge surprise. Every martial artist cried out in excitement. They unleashed all of their strength and unleashed all of their energy. They began to attack fiercely like a storm. They were determined to sweep away the haze of being suppressed by the endless races in the planet's graveyard. A divine stone realm powerhouse fought against the judge alone and was entangled with him. Another tall, human warrior with a big beard descended from the sky. He waved the bright, nine-ringed saber in his hand, bringing with it layers of water-like saber light that poured out rapidly. The resplendent saber light was invincible. It brought with it broken limbs, and 4 to 5 ghost race warriors fell to the ground. 2 wolf race warriors who belonged to the endless camp wanted to launch a sneak attack, but the bearded man once again slashed horizontally and cut the 2 god realm experts into 4 pieces. His body rushed forward, and 2 more demons fell under his saber. Under his lead, the surface races finally broke through the endless races battlefront. Victory was about to arrive. Ha ha ha. The endless races are only SOSO. Today I, Crazy Saber Subai, will start a massacre. As he spoke, Subai made a victory gesture towards Wentao. Reporter friend from the Dimensional Universe Corporation, please give me a big close-up. From today onwards, I, Subai, am the hero of the surface races. Under the protection of the sky, concealing flag, Wentao had been observing and filming. Seeing how brave Crazy Saber was, he immediately aimed the camera at him. Fellow citizens of the surface races, today I finally saw a hero. This divine stone realm warrior named Subai is extremely brave and has already killed 7 warriors of the endless races. If we win today's battle on Lindistar, this person will have the greatest merit. Everyone, please remember his name and remember his appearance. Below, the surface races who were excited by the battle began to crazily flood the screen. Subai, Subai, hero, hero. With the sky above his head and the earth below his feet, it's not easy to give birth to a child. The camera zoomed in and gave a big close-up of Subai's charge. Subai charged confidently and turned back with a smile. When he turned back again, he saw a white light sweep past. Pooh! Blood splattered 10 feet. Subai's head fell to the ground. A demon wearing black armor with a sharp horn on his head appeared. He held a long saber in his hand. It was this saber that killed Subai. Demigod, Chapter 9:16. When a demigod appeared on the battlefield where the Divine Stone realm was the highest level, the situation of the war would definitely change. The reason why demigods were called demigods was because they had already completed the third stage of the Divine Transformation realm and were preparing to break through to the God realm. Although they failed to break through, their body, consciousness, telekinesis, and many other aspects already had the characteristics of the God realm. They were no longer in the same realm as divine stones. The lowest star energy level of the divine stone was 500 million, but demigods doubled it to 1 billion. Failure to break through meant that this demigod's talent wasn't too high, so the upper limit of demigods wasn't too high. This was probably the only weakness of demigods. The demigod in front of them wasn't an Emperor realm expert, but he was enough to look down on everyone on the battlefield. And behind him, there were 300 demon race martial artists. This team was originally searching for the surface races and exterminating them. They saw the situation through the dimensional universe and immediately rushed over. Although they came a bit late, it was enough to bring disaster to the surface races. All the surface races watching the battle in the dimensional universe couldn't help but close their eyes in pain. It was over. The surface races on the planet's graveyard suffered another heavy blow. There were already 400 martial artists gathered here, but most of them were at the Divine Will realm and Divine realm. How could they withstand the demigod's torment? After killing Big Beard, the demigod from the Horned Demon race walked over step by step. The earth seemed to tremble under his feet, and the hearts of the martial artists on the ground were trembling along with him. The Ghost race's Divine Stone realm expert, Magistrate, saw the Horned Demon race and bowed. "Greetings, Senior." The single-horned demigod snorted from his nostrils. In the end, his gaze locked onto the human Divine Stone expert who was fighting against the judge. "Jia, right now, I'm at the critical moment of upgrading from 6-star to 7-star. As long as I can advance to 7-star, I'll have the possibility of becoming a king in the future. Each Divine Stone realm is worth 10,000 points. It's still useful to me. You guys can deal with these little rats. This Divine Stone realm is mine." Magistrate naturally didn't dare to disagree and nodded, "Of course." The Divine Stone realm expert saw the Horned Demon race walking over step by step, and his expression changed a few times. Finally, he laughed. "I know I'm not your opponent, but it won't be that easy to kill me. My speed isn't something ordinary people can compare to. I'm not playing anymore. Bye-bye." The Divine Stone martial artist made an unexpected move. He actually turned around and ran. Moreover, the speed of this warrior was indeed very fast. His body almost turned into a ray of light and disappeared from people's sight in the blink of an eye. "You want to run?" In front of me, one-horned white, no godstone has ever been able to escape. "Stay here." The one-horned demigod white's face turned black, and his body transformed into a black light as he chased after the Divine Stone martial artist. His speed was a bit faster than the Divine Stone martial artist's, but to catch and kill his opponent in a short period of time was definitely not an easy task. Now that the biggest crisis had been resolved, the warriors on the ground regained their confidence. As long as they could kill this Godstone realm magistrate, they might still have a chance in this battle. Before the demigod returned, as long as they dispersed, the other party would not be able to chase after so many people. A martial artist at the peak of the god realm shouted, "Brothers, this is our only chance. They have more than 400 people, and we have about 400 people as well. Let's fight them to the death. Let's fight. Charge. The chance to take revenge for our brothers on the ground has come." These martial artists shouted in unison, and once again launched an attack on the martial artists of the endless races. The battle that had stopped because of the demigod's appearance was once again in full swing. All the martial artists were at the Divine Transformation realm, and each of them had the ability to destroy a small planet. This battle was simply earth-shaking, but the scene of the battle was not like what the ground races had imagined. There was not even a draw. These martial artists of the endless races advanced and retreated in an orderly manner. They had a clear division of labor, and they were also quite strong. They behaved more like a team. This was especially true for the Godstone realm magistrate. With the magistrate brush in hand, he was unstoppable on the battlefield. There was no opponent at all. As a Godstone realm magistrate whose star force had reached 700 million, these divine sense realm magistrates were not enough in his eyes. The magistrate brush could really reap lives. Wherever it passed, corpses would be left behind. The battle did not last long, and it was already nearing its end. Less than 100 people from the endless races had died, while nearly 300 people from the ground races had died. The remaining less than 100 people surrounded Wen Tao and were resisting stubbornly. But it seemed that they could no longer cause any damage to the endless races. Wen Tao stood in the crowd. Under the protection of the heaven-shrouding flag, he was recording everything and continuing to transmit it into the dimensional universe. Compatriots of the ground races, I was a little reckless this time. So many of my compatriots have died in order to save me. I feel very sad. It seems that today's battle will be the last broadcast of my career as a reporter, Wen Tao. But before I die, I still want to say something. Wen Tao said in a pained tone, the number of participants on both sides in the eye of the storm is about the same, and their strength is about the same. But why did this happen? In the end, there are two reasons: internal strife and indifference. Wen Tao called out Heartless King and Lin Jun again. As a reporter who was about to die, he had no scruples at all. He used the incident of the two people scolding each other in the dimensional universe as an example. The spectators fell silent. Everyone knew the indifference of those powerful warriors. The planet graveyard here was in danger, but the powerhouses of the crisscross continent turned a blind eye to it. They only cared about their own strength. But this could not be said to be wrong, because everyone was the same. Who could be blamed for who was right and who was wrong? Moreover, if the people of the crisscross continent returned, the people of the endless races could also return. They might not be able to gain any benefits. No one would do something that required a lot of effort. As for Lin Jun, he also had a negative reputation this time. Seeing that the situation was about to collapse, Wen Tao, as a reporter, reprimanded Lin Jun and Heartless King for the last few words, almost shouting them out. Sage Lin Jun, Heartless King, with cold-blooded people like you, the ground races will never have hope. Asterisk, 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 asterisk on the other side of the eye of the storm on the crisscross continent. Heartless King, who was dressed in white, was watching the chaotic battle in the planet graveyard. This was the second time he saw Wen Tao reprimanding him and Lin Jun, but Heartless King was not moved at all. He would not save those ant-like fellows. As an emperor, what did the life and death of these ants have to do with him? His enemies were the emperors of the endless races. Unless Lin Jun appeared at this moment, Heartless King would definitely go to the planet graveyard. However, his goal was not to save Lin Jun, but not to kill him. Hearing Wen Tao's shout at the end, Heartless King could not help but frown secretly. Idiot, you keep comparing me to that Lin Jun, but you don't know that trash is not qualified at all. Even if you die, you deserve it. Heartless King decided to close the dimensional universe. Out of sight, out of mind. Regardless of the situation in the planet graveyard, it had nothing to do with him. As for what others thought of him, Heartless King scoffed. If anyone dared to spout nonsense in front of him, he would just kill them with a sword. Because he had closed the dimensional universe, he did not see that a ray of light was bursting out from the depths of the Earth's core. The battle was about to end. There were less than 50 people left on the surface. The situation was precarious. Under the attacks of the endless races, even Wen Tao's sky-concealing flag could not hold on any longer. Although the treasure was strong, it was useless if the user was not strong enough. After Wen Tao shouted, he walked out from under the sky-concealing flag. Captain, where are you going? We can still hold on for a few more minutes here. The people from the Dimensional Universe Corporation called out to Wen Tao from behind. Wen Tao turned around and looked at his companions. Everyone, it's useless. No one will come to save us. Instead of being killed in a cowardly manner, it's better to die in battle. Don't forget, although I'm a reporter, I'm also a god-level martial artist at the same time. But, Captain, you haven't experienced any actual combat. I know I'm not strong enough, but I'm still stronger than inhumane people like Lin Jun and Heartless King. Even if I die, I want to die with a bang. Wen Tao roared and pulled out a sword. It was actually a low-grade spiritual treasure, just like the sky-slashing sword that Lin Jun had obtained in the southern Liang. Such a sword was a treasure in the primordial realm, but in the endless sea of stars, it was indeed trash. When Tao held such a sword, unleashed his not-so-strong star power, and charged out resolutely. The eyes of the people behind were a little wet. Their captain's strength was not very strong. He was someone who had been nurtured by the Dimensional Universe Corporation. However, because he had not experienced much killing and fighting, he had a pure heart. Such a pure heart was indeed rare among high-level martial artists. However, the cruel and endless races on the other side did not care about this. A tiger demon race martial artist howled and slashed with his long saber. In his opinion, this reporter at the early stage of the god level could be easily killed with one slash. This time, he was going to do a meritorious service. The martial artists on the ground who were watching all looked gloomy. Some closed their eyes, while others shed tears. Those who were wearing hats took off their hats neatly and bowed slightly to the dimensional universe. Reporter Wen Tao, you're a good person. We'll miss you. This is the best reporter I've ever seen. It's a pity that good people don't live long. I hope you'll be well in your next life. Everyone watched helplessly, waiting for the moment of Wen Tao's death. Their eyes were already brimming with tears, ready to flow out of excitement at any time for the sake of their little hot-bloodedness and feelings. Chapter 9:17. Many people saw this light, but no one realized what this light represented at that time. Later, when the teacher was explaining the lesson to the students and the situation in the eye of the storm battlefield, they called this light the light of hope. Bang! In the midst of the flying soil, a figure rushed out. The position was actually between Wen Tao and the tiger demon martial artist. The tiger demon martial artist's long saber fell, but this person didn't even look. He raised his hand and directly grabbed the blade. With a sound of metal clashing, the long saber was firmly held in his hand. It didn't even scratch his skin. The tiger demon martial artist didn't even react at first. He stared blankly at his long saber being held in the other person's hand. However, he immediately realized that the person holding his long saber was at the peak of the spiritual force transformation. The tiger demon martial artist immediately felt that the world had turned upside down. He even felt that he had been humiliated. It was like an adult fighting with a young man. He could have knocked the other to the ground with a punch, but he didn't expect that a child would grab his wrist, and he couldn't even move. This was simply an insult to strength. Bastard, let go of me. The tiger demon martial artist used all his strength to try to pull his saber back. However, this long saber seemed to have taken root in this martial artist's hand. Even with his 430 million star power, he couldn't pull it at all. This is absolute suppression. The tiger demon martial artist almost didn't dare to believe his eyes. Only when the other person's star power was at least 2 times higher than his could he form such absolute suppression and give him no chance to resist. However, the other person was only at the spiritual force transformation. Who the F***ck are you? Not daring to accept such a cruel reality, the tiger demon martial artist shouted himself hoarse. What answered him was a resounding slap in the face. Slap! It was so fast that he couldn't dodge at all. The tiger demon martial artist was hit until he saw stars. The world was spinning, and he felt that his brain was about to be pulled out. He almost completely lost consciousness. Both his hands were still holding onto his saber. He just stood there in a daze. When a martial artist flashed the tiger demon martial artist's mouth, he didn't even turn his head. His gaze was on Wen Tao. Wen Tao also looked at this person. In Wen Tao's eyes, this person looked very handsome. He had a head full of long hair, a handsome face, and a slender figure with perfect muscles. His bronze skin exuded endless masculine charm. But as a reporter, Wen Tao noticed 2 details. One was that the man had a golden thread on his wrist, which looked a little out of place. In addition, there was a little girl in the form of energy on the man's shoulder. The little girl was very pretty and cute, even a little silly. She wore a white princess dress with laces, revealing her white and tender calves. She pouted as if she was very dissatisfied with something. Wen Tao didn't know what this little girl represented. Perhaps she was a pet or something. However, for a grown man to carry such a small child, Wen Tao felt that this person might have some psychological problems. But more than that, Wen Tao felt that this person was somewhat familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. It seemed to have appeared on a forum in a nearby city, but he did not pay attention to it. Who was it? It wasn't until this person spoke that Wen Tao came to a realization. Who are you calling cold-blooded? Wen Tao was all too familiar with this voice because in the entire Eye of the Storm, this person spoke the most. When he was cursing with the Heartless King, he had used the loudspeaker 15 times. One must know that at that time, everyone had just entered the Eye of the Storm. This kind of nouveau riche behavior left a deep impression on Wen Tao. You are Lin Jun? Without waiting for Lin Jun to answer, Wen Tao suddenly shouted, "You are Lin Jun." Wen Tao was gnashing his teeth at this moment. The hot-bloodedness in his heart determined that he was not afraid of power. He shouted resolutely, "It is you. You are cold-blooded. Why did you leave me in the lurch?" Now that they were on the battlefield, before the conversation between the two could continue, the Tiger Demon Clan martial artist had already recovered. He actually wanted to launch a sneak attack on Lin Jun again. Lin Jun didn't even turn his head. He raised his hand and slapped him in the face, dodging again. PFFF. This time, Lin Jun released a bit of star power from his palm. The enormous power was like smashing a watermelon, smashing the head of the Tiger Demon Clan martial artist into pieces. Lin Jun looked at Wen Tao expressionlessly. Did I? Wen Tao was stunned for a moment. Don't be hypocritical. Do you think I don't know that you experts don't care about the life or death of others? What's the big deal about killing one person? I'm afraid you'll be running away in the next moment. Lin Jun snorted coldly and suddenly turned his head. A 5-meter-long light sword bloomed on his palm, producing a buzzing sound. Behind him, 5 to 6 Demon Clan martial artists had already rushed over. Slash! The bright light of the sword flickered on the battlefield. Among these 5 to 6 martial artists, one was at the God Realm stage, and the rest were at the Divine Will stage. They were cut into several pieces by Lin Jun's sword without any resistance. As fresh blood splattered, Lin Jun turned his head to look at Wen Tao. Did I? Wen Tao is also a stubborn person. Hypocrite. You have a group of God Realm experts behind you. It'll be too late if you don't run now. Lin Jun turned around again. This time, sword energy bloomed on both his hands, and he waved it at the same time. Life-severing. This sword technique still had great power when executed by Lin Jun. 7 God Realm experts from the Devil Clan and Ghost Clan were cut into several pieces in the air. Lin Jun faced Wen Tao again. Did I? Wen Tao opened his mouth. You must be pretending. Lin Jun turned his head again. This time, he didn't even move his hand. His heart sword was unleashed. An invisible sword net enveloped the area with a buzzing sound. The huge star power drove the sword net forward and spun. Mincemeat on the ground. More than 20 Fiend race martial artists formed a horrifying Azura field. This person is a powerhouse. Everyone, be careful. F***CK. You have eyes but can't see. That's clearly Lin Jun. Don't you know Lin Jun? Qingqiu Mountain once put up a bounty for him. Lin Jun is actually so strong. Oh my god. The endless races were in a panic, while the surface races were in an uproar. After experiencing that certain death, it was an incomparable feeling to be reborn. These martial artists were so excited that they shouted Lin Jun's name in unison. Lin Jun already had a certain reputation, but according to the legends, the impression that Lin Jun gave people was that he was a genius who knew how to refine pills and make money. No matter how many impressions they had, it was the war of words between Lin Jun and the Heartless King in the Dimensional Universe 3 years ago. People thought that Lin Jun was definitely a tycoon, but in terms of strength, no one was too optimistic about Lin Jun. But today, all these impressions were reversed. Lin Jun appeared and cleared out a large number of endless races in a few moves. With such ability, who dared to say that he was a weakling? The Dimensional Universe was also filled with cheers. Countless people shouted Lin Jun's name. The little girl sitting on Lin Jun's shoulder muttered in a low voice, but no one heard what she said. Only Lin Jun could hear what Chris said on his shoulder. If you didn't have points, would you still work so hard? The corner of Lin Jun's mouth twitched slightly. He looked at Wen Tao without changing his expression. Did I? Wen Tao's expression changed twice. He didn't say anything else, but his professional habit made him react lightning fast. He immediately ran back to the heaven-concealing flag because it was safe enough here. Then, he immediately began a new round of live broadcast. Fellow countrymen, all the compatriots of the surface races, I'm very happy that I can continue to commentate for you guys. I believe that everyone is no stranger to this handsome guy in front of me. This is the Sage Master of Heavenly Square City who is deeply loved and respected by the people, who is of virtue and prestige, whose name has spread far and wide, and who instills fear in countless races. Wen Tao dragged out Lin Jun's name and even blushed because he used too much force. Due to the discovery of the situation in the planetary graveyard, Saint Master Lin Jun rushed over from the other side of the starry sky to save the people from the calamity. I was also personally saved by the Saint Master, and I believe that everyone must have seen it. Now, under the awe of the Saint Master, the bastards of the endless races are terrified and cowering in fear. I can declare in advance that we will definitely win this battle. Wen Tao's subordinate couldn't stand Wen Tao's unscrupulous flattery. He reminded in a low voice, "Captain, you just scolded Lin Jun. Your attitude changed too quickly. Where's your integrity?" Wen Tao snorted from his nostrils. "Nonsense. I thought I was going to die just now. Of course, I said whatever came to my mind. Now that I'm alive, I'm still a reporter." "A reporter's integrity? Why don't you ask the eunuch where your roots are? I'm afraid he doesn't even know when he's fed to the dogs." Looking at Wen Tao's glowing eyes, his subordinate retreated speechlessly. However, he was also very happy. This Lin Jun must be reported and publicized. The Dimensional Universe Corporation couldn't do other things, but this was a piece of cake. Lin Jun narrowed his eyes slightly and turned around in satisfaction. This was what he wanted. Not only could he gain points, but he could also become famous. There was nothing better than this. He didn't expect to encounter such a big show as soon as he came out of seclusion. This was a blessing from the heavens. Lin Jun raised his hand and gestured to the remaining warriors on the ground. "All of you stand behind me." These warriors immediately ran behind Lin Jun and to Wen Tao's side. Their faces were filled with the excitement of surviving a disaster, as well as admiration for Lin Jun. Lin Jun once again pointed at the crowd of endless races. "You." Chapter 918. Everyone was paying attention to the situation on planet Linda. Sky Square City's Sage Master, Lin Jun, appeared out of nowhere and turned the situation around. The countless races retreated and looked at Lin Jun as if they had seen a ghost. If there was a direct definition of a genius, then Lin Jun was definitely a genius among geniuses. The strength of a pinnacle divine while transformation was simply shocking. The judge pointed his judge's brush at Lin Jun. "Lin Jun, don't be arrogant. Do you think you've won?" Lin Jun sneered. "That's right. I don't think so. Don't panic. No matter how powerful he is, he's just one person. Follow me." As the judge spoke, he waved his judge's brush, and a gloomy aura of death was quietly emitted, invisibly encouraging the countless races. Gradually, the eyes of the countless races' martial artists turned red, and they were like bloodthirsty wolves. They let out beast-like roars from their throats. "Go! The Ju Tian Great Emperor is watching you from behind." With the call of a divine stone realm expert and the name of the Ju Tian Great Emperor as their spiritual leader, the countless races' martial artists once again mustered their courage. They weren't prepared enough just now. This time, Lin Jun wouldn't be so lucky. "Go!" A pinnacle divine world ox demon took the lead and charged forward. PFFF. The sword light was released from Lin Jun's side and fell from the ox demon's side. It directly split the first martial artist in half. However, this didn't stop the attacks of the other races. A black mass of people rushed over from all directions. Lin Jun laughed loudly. He put away the sword light in his hand and replaced it with his newly obtained treasure, the purple gold spear. Children of the countless races from now on, when you see this Lord Lin Jun's spear, retreat. Clap, clap, clap. Thousands of rays of light rose from the crowd. Lin Jun held the spear and charged forward rapidly. Wherever the spear passed, no one could match it. There was no fancy attack. It was just a simple stab. Stab, stab, another stab. Every time a member of the endless races thought that they could dodge Lin Jun's spear would suddenly accelerate. Before the enemy could react, a bloody hole would be left in their face. Every time the spear pierced out, the energy would surge and completely crush the opponent's spiritual sea and brain, killing them for good. Pu. The purple gold spear was like a long snake coming out of its hole. The strange python flipped over and turned into a purple flash. Because the speed of the spear was too fast, it looked like a purple net from afar. As the light flashed, the martial artists of countless races fell down one after another. None of them were a match for Lin Jun. The judge extended his arms and circled in the air. He couldn't find a chance to attack, but the judge's pen in his hand was still waving, releasing an unknown black aura. That aura was like a bloodthirsty seal. Although the spiritual deity world stage cultivators from the countless races knew that they were not Lin Jun's match, they still absorbed the black aura one by one. Not a single one of them retreated. Instead, they attacked even more violently. The judge's eyes were bright as he watched the battle in the air. He was looking for a chance to kill Lin Jun. Pu. The spear swung left and right. After killing 2 Wu Changs of the ghost race, Lin Jun stepped on the ground and quickly rushed forward. He stabbed the spear with one hand and pierced through 3 demons. These 3 demon race martial artists were all extremely tall and were at the peak of the god realm. They were considered good spoils of war. It was rare to see them in a row. How could Lin Jun let them go? He attacked with lightning speed and succeeded. However, these 3 tall demon race martial artists seemed to have been prepared. When Lin Jun's spear entered their bodies, the 3 of them grabbed the purple gold spear tightly at the same time, unwilling to let Lin Jun let go. Lin Jun was about to use his strength to shatter the 3 bodies when dozens of figures rushed forward crazily. A green fiend demon rushed over. Lin Jun waved his hand and killed it with a sword aura. 2 horse-faced ghost race martial artists waved their death scythes and slashed at Lin Jun from the side. Lin Jun slashed with his sword again and killed them without any suspense. Then, 3 ox-headed ghosts fell from the sky. Lin Jun slashed again and killed the 3 ox-headed ghosts. However, during the 4th wave of attacks, 2 earth demons burst out from the ground and grabbed onto Lin Jun's legs with both their hands. The martial artists on the ground who were watching the battle from the back suddenly exclaimed. In this kind of chaotic battle, if one's spear was grabbed and one's legs couldn't move, it was almost a dead end. The martial artists of these countless races immediately let out excited howls, and countless attacks rained down like a storm. The attacks were unbelievably dense. The martial artists in front attacked at close range, while the martial artists behind attacked from afar. Every gap was filled, and some attacks even hit their companions. Ding ding dang dang pa 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 poo poo poo. Ka 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 rumble. Waves of smoke and sparks flew, and the earth trembled. The dazzling light and smoke made it hard for people to open their eyes. The warriors of the countless races smiled happily. No one could survive such a dense attack. Even a demigod wouldn't be able to survive, let alone a peak divine perception. But when the smoke and dust dissipated, these people's jaws almost fell to the ground. Lotus flowers bloomed on Lin Jun's body, and his astral power surged. He had completely transformed into armor. A layer of golden light flowed on the scales, making him look like a god. Although the attacks were dense, they couldn't break through Lin Jun's defense at all. He reached out and patted the dust off his body. Your tactics are not bad. It's indeed beyond my expectations. But unfortunately, tactics are only useful when we're evenly matched. Your tactics are worthless to me now. Go to hell. Lin Jun suddenly sent out astral sword with both hands, twisting them in the air. God's Tomb. God's Tomb was an ultimate move meant to deal with divine transformation realm martial artists. Now, Lin Jun's move was the most suitable. The invisible astral sword sliced through the air, and corpses littered the ground. At this time, the number of people was far too dense, giving Lin Jun the best opportunity. With this move, over 100 people fell to the ground. At this moment, Lin Jun let out a smile. Just how powerful were divine transformation realm martial artists? There weren't any divine transformation realm martial artists left in the primordial realm. All of them had come to the endless battlefield. But in front of Lin Jun, an ordinary divine transformation realm martial artist couldn't even withstand a single blow. Over 1,000 years of bitter cultivation hadn't been in vain. But at this time, his thoughts relaxed a little, and his movements paused for a moment. And in this nearly imperceptible moment, the underworld judge made his move. The black underworld judge's brush silently arrived at Lin Jun's neck. Puff! A divine stone powerhouse's innate strength erupted. The underworld judge succeeded. A wound appeared on Lin Jun's neck, and black blood flowed out. A black death energy covered Lin Jun's body. But the underworld judge didn't have the advantage. Lin Jun's strength was far greater than his. He grabbed the purple gold spear and pierced through the underworld judge's chest like a bolt of lightning. The underworld judge fell to his knees. This spear had nearly destroyed his heart meridians. It would be difficult for him to survive. But the underworld judge still chuckled. Using my life to exchange for Saint Master Lin Jun's life is worth it. Ha ha ha. What is this? Lin Jun also retreated. He could feel how terrifying this death energy was. It was rapidly stripping away his life force, causing his body to rapidly decline. Death was beckoning at him. You must be ignorant. The death energy of the Ghost Clan is condensed on the underworld judge's brush. Even a conferred Emperor expert would die without a doubt if he was hit by this attack. Lin Jun, you're still too inexperienced. The underworld judge laughed extremely proudly. Even though he was vomiting blood, it didn't affect his laughter at all. Lin Jun glanced at the underworld judge. He reached out and took out a pill and swallowed it. What is that? The underworld judge was stunned. 9 transformations golden pill. It can even revive a dead person. It has a miraculous effect on restraining death energy. It shouldn't be a problem for me to expel your death energy. Lin Jun couldn't help but sneer. Looks like you're underestimating a saint-level alchemist. You want to use a mere death energy to deal with me? How naive. You deserve to die. The underworld judge's attack that he had been preparing for a long time failed. He became angry out of humiliation. Even in the face of death, he still refuted Lin Jun. Your saint-level alchemist is nothing. Our Ghost Clan's Great Elder is a true peak saint-level alchemist. When he comes, I'll let you feel his true death energy. I'm sure you won't even have a corpse left. Lin Jun's heart trembled slightly. Where is he? Let him come. I'll fight with him. Before the underworld judge could answer, his heart was completely shattered and he fell to the ground dead. Lin Jun pulled out the purple gold spear, feeling a little regretful in his heart. This was the second living saint-level alchemist he knew of. The previous one was Qian Tong, but now it had become him. The other was the Ghost Clan's Great Elder. I wonder what's so special about an alchemist from the endless races. Lin Jun temporarily put this thought aside. Brandishing his spear, he charged towards the remaining cultivators of the endless races like a tiger in a flock of sheep. After this battle, the endless races only had a little more than 100 people left from the original 400. Moreover, these people deeply understood that Lin Jun was definitely not someone low-level cultivators could deal with by relying on numbers. Seeing Lin Jun charging over again, these cultivators of the endless races completely lost the desire to resist. Without the underworld judge releasing the black gas, they gradually woke up and began to flee frantically. As Chris said, these were all points. How could Lin Jun let them go so easily? Gotcha! In the distance, when Tao captured the scene where Lin Jun was about to set off to chase down the endless races. Lin Jun's speed reached the speed of light. He even felt that when Tao was pressing the button to record, so he turned around in time and made a peace sign towards Wen Tao. The scene of him being bathed in blood and holding a spear in his hand while making a peace sign was a classic scene for Lin Jun. Behind him were the endless races fleeing frantically. This was the perfect background. Chapter 919. Under the heaven-concealing flag, the surface races looked ahead with surging emotions. Lin Jun's powerful combat strength deeply shocked their hearts, making them feel that being a member of the surface races was something to be proud of. In front of him, these endless races scattered and fled. Lin Jun held the purple gold spear and began to chase after these escaping people. He kept releasing the gravitational force and caught the escaping people back. His body moved at the speed of light and could often catch up to them in the blink of an eye. Even if some people escaped far away, Lin Jun's god's might heavens was enough to kill them. Endless races fell one after another, and Lin Jun's points also rose rapidly. One divine world realm was 100 points, and one divine world realm was 1,000 points. Lin Jun's points were close to 300,000. Unknowingly, the star rank on his chest had reached 4 stars. I need 1 million points to upgrade from 4 stars to 5 stars. At this stage, killing Divine World Realm experts is no longer of much use. Divine World Realm experts are also very slow to upgrade. If only there were a few more Godstone Realm experts or demigods. Killing a Godstone Realm expert was 10,000 points, and killing a demigod was 100,000 points. There was no pressure to upgrade to 5 stars. However, 6 stars required 10 million points, and 7 stars required 100 million points. That was very difficult. Unless he killed a few more Emperor Realm experts or Hall of Fame experts, he could upgrade quickly. Otherwise, it would take a long time to accumulate. Lin Jun was still letting his imagination run wild while he was working. Suddenly, an aura that made one's hair stand on end rushed towards them. "Danger!" Lin Jun shouted, and in a flash, time deceleration. This time, it was as if space had become stagnant. Under the 7 times time deceleration, Lin Jun could feel a fine ripple moving quickly in space. Under the deceleration state, this ripple was still shockingly fast. Lin Jun quickly leaned back, but a few strands of his hair were still cut off by the ripple. He narrowly dodged it. A layer of fine sweat appeared on Lin Jun's forehead. If he didn't have time deceleration, he definitely wouldn't have been able to dodge this sword. Such a sure kill attack was definitely a powerful battle skill, and it was not something that a Divine Stone Realm martial artist could unleash. Space rippled, and a single-horned martial artist emerged from the void. "Sage Teacher Lin Jun, be careful. This person is the demigod White." Wen Tao and the others shouted from behind. Even if they didn't say anything, Lin Jun could tell that this demon clan warrior was a demigod. Lin Jun's expression turned solemn as he gripped the purple gold spear with both hands. He was actually a little excited. He was actually going to face a demigod. White didn't immediately launch an attack after his failed attack. Instead, he adjusted himself and became vigilant. It was clad in black armor and had a single golden horn on its head. The faint golden light on the horn made it look extremely tough. He held a 3-meter-long heavy sword with both hands. The body of the sword was pitch black, and the blade couldn't be seen. It was this sword that almost cut off Lin Jun's head. White stared at Lin Jun with his pair of bull eyes. After a while, his gaze swept past Lin Jun and looked into the void. "TSK. Ha ha ha. Stupid bull White. You actually couldn't kill a mere divine realm martial artist with one strike. You're simply a disgrace to a demigod expert. Damn monkey. Don't be so sarcastic here. The attack just now didn't mean anything. Don't even think about snatching my spoils of war." "Tis TSK. What spoils of war? You're just after Lin Jun's treasure spear, but you don't have to worry about your grandpa, Home Meng, coveting this spear. What I need is a stick." A figure appeared in the void, and a thin martial artist appeared. This person had a pointy mouth and monkey cheeks, but he looked extremely capable. Compared to White, Lin Jun felt that this Hong Meng seemed to be more difficult to deal with. Moreover, this monkey was also a demigod. Like White, he belonged to the magical Beast clan. He held a golden stick in his hand, which was a superb spiritual treasure like Lin Jun's Lance of Lantis. Hong Meng, don't play dumb in front of me. We don't have many godstones now. Don't you just want to exchange the spear for that precious stick? Let me tell you, don't even think about it. Lin Jun is mine. All the spoils of war on him should belong to me. White said. His bull eyes were glowing red, and black smoke was coming out his nostrils. It seemed that he would go berserk at any time. Okay. You can have it. But White, let's make a deal. I think this Lin Jun kid is not ordinary. His star power is not below yours or mine. If you can't take him down, don't blame me for snatching him. White snorted coldly. Of course I can see that his star power is very strong. He actually has 5 billion star power. However, it's impossible for him to defeat me with just star power. Today, Old Bull will teach this kid what a real battle is. White was afraid that Hong Meng would make a move. He waved the heavy sword in his hand, and the space shook. Lin Jun kid, your time of death has come. Lin Jun held the purple gold spear and sneered. Anyone can talk big, but unfortunately, you don't have the ability. Then let's try. Moo! White suddenly let out a bull's roar and stomped on the ground with his hind legs. Gotcha! The ground actually cracked under his stomp. This was Linda Planet, a planet with a very large diameter. White's stomp had actually created a bottomless rift valley. If planet Linda wasn't crowded with countless other planets, this stomp would have caused the planet to leave its orbit. His huge body was like a missile as he arrived in front of Lin Jun in an instant. The heavy sword in his hand slashed down with an earth-shattering might. Lin Jun, feel the power of a demigod. Moo! Even before the sword arrived, Lin Jun's muscles were already trembling from the gust of wind blowing against his face. The clothes on his body exploded and were instantly blown away by the strong wind. Even the scales that had turned into armor seemed to have encountered some kind of attack as they clashed. White's charging attack was actually so terrifying. Seeing this attack, Lin Jun knew that he couldn't retreat from this attack. First of all, behind Lin Jun was the heaven-shrouding flag. Not only were there reporters, but there were also many surface races hiding under Lin Jun's protection. If Lin Jun dodged, the heaven-shrouding flag wouldn't be able to block White's frontal attack. At that time, these people would definitely die. Of course, this wasn't the most important thing. The most important thing was that Lin Jun didn't want to retreat. He had to personally experience the power of a demigod. Therefore, when White charged over, Lin Jun also let out a roar. After transforming into armor, his powerful muscles completely exploded. The ground beneath his feet also cracked. Holding his purple gold spear horizontally, he roared and charged forward. He raised his spear and shouted, "Open for me!" Boom! Wen Tao's shutter was about to fly out. When the demigod appeared, Wen Tao thought that they were dead for sure. No matter how strong Lin Jun was, he probably wasn't a match for the demigod. Therefore, he had already thought of a name for this photo. It was called Life's Swan Song. But when he took the photo, he was shocked to find that Lin Jun withstood it. Although his arms were trembling and the ground beneath his feet was trembling, Lin Jun had actually managed to use his purple gold spear to block White's heavy sword strike. Oh my god! Oh my god! Am I seeing things? Sage Lin Jun actually withstood a demigod's frontal attack. This is simply a miracle. As a reporter, I, Wen Tao, have seen some strong people. White's attack just now gave me the feeling that it was enough to split a small planet, but it was blocked by Sage Lin Jun. This is too amazing. When Tao turned around and said to the surface races behind him, "Everyone, wave your arms and cheer for our Sage Lin Jun. Let's hope that he can show his might and defeat that old bull. Sage Master will win. Sage Master will win. Lin Jun, Marshal Yin Yang. Sage Lin Jun, do your best. Ravage that old bull to your heart's content. Don't pity him just because he's a delicate flower." Behind Wen Tao, a group of surface race warriors shouted loudly and began to cheer for Lin Jun. Wen Tao and the others weren't the only ones who noticed this scene. Anyone who watched this video stopped what they were doing. A battle between demigods. This wasn't something that could be seen every day. Moreover, one side was an endless race while the other side was a surface race. Not to mention the cities outside the eye of the storm, even within the eye of the storm, except for lone rangers like the Heartless King who closed the dimensional universe. Almost everyone knew about this battle. F***CK. This Lin Jun is really fierce. He actually went head-to-head with a demigod. Can he do it? I don't know, but I know one thing. Even if he can't, he's already famous. If he can, then it won't be as simple as being famous. The peak of divine telekinesis, more than 1,000 years old, a saint-level alchemist, and strength comparable to a demigod. I seem to have seen the future of the Hall of Fame. On the side of the endless race, there were also countless people watching. However, their mentality was relatively relaxed because there were two demigods here. Other than White, there was also a demigod from the Monkey Devil race. Many people knew Ho Meng, and that one was even more difficult to deal with. No matter how strong Lin Jun was, it was impossible for him to be a match for two demigods. Therefore, they were bound to win. The only thing worth worrying about was White, the old bull. He mustn't fail miserably and be defeated by Lin Jun. That would be a huge disgrace to the endless race. In Sky City, in the City Lord's mansion, Old Man Kanjing was watching. In the exploration area deep in the endless sea of stars, Lelo was watching. In the unreachable Qingxiu Mountain, a beauty made of ice and snow was watching. In the supreme ruling land of the endless race, the heavenly palace, the endless race's Zhu Tian Emperor was watching. In the starry sky, deep in the eye of the storm, there were even a few people who were watching silently. Chapter 920. Veins popped out on White's face as he pressed down the edgeless heavy sword in his hand with all his might. Star power erupted from his skin, proving that he had reached his limit. Lin Jun held the purple gold spear with both hands. This was the first time in his life that he felt such a powerful force. This old bull's strength was not inferior to Lin Jun's at all. With the help of the impact, he even had the advantage for a short period of time. Lin Jun groaned at the beginning, but the immortal spirit body quickly healed some internal injuries. Lin Jun was gradually on par with White. Good fellow. This kid can actually resist White's strength. Ho Meng was pacing back and forth in the distance, constantly paying attention to Lin Jun's actions. How can there be such a ferocious kid from a surface race? He can rival a demigod at the peak of his divine sense. This kid must not be left alive. The two of them were locked in a stalemate for about half a minute before they pushed each other away. They did not want to be entangled for too long to prevent others from taking advantage of the situation. White waved the edgeless heavy sword in his hand. This weapon was as heavy as a small planet. Every time it was waved, it had the power to cut open a planet. It had no edge and was not afraid of damage. It was just right to clash with Lin Jun's purple gold spear. Lin Jun, have a taste of Old Bull's cross/sword technique. White roared as he waved his heavy sword. Streaks of black sword light that cut open space crisscrossed, covering almost all the space in front of Lin Jun. Lin Jun could clearly feel the power of these sword light. Every strike caused the space to tremble, and the crazy energy inside surged. Its power was absolutely unimaginable. If Lin Jun chose to dodge, the heaven-concealing flag behind him would still be attacked. Since Lin Jun chose this place, he did not intend to dodge. The spear spun like a windmill. Immovable mountain. The strong body, after the armor transformation, was like a nail, firmly nailed to a point on planet Linda. Those crisscrossing sword chi attacked, but Lin Jun chose to resist it again. Previously, they were competing on strength. This time, they were competing on technique. The spear radiance and the sword aura clashed together like a storm. Lin Jun thought that he would be able to withstand it. However, after exchanging blows, he finally realized the strength and wisdom of a demigod. Taking advantage of the broadness of the heavy sword, the cross-shaped sword chi was extremely difficult to completely block. Especially since Lin Jun had to protect the people behind him, he couldn't let the cross-shaped sword chi pass through. As a result, some of the sword chi inevitably landed on Lin Jun's body. Boom! Boom! Poo-pee-you! Lin Jun's scales were damaged by the sword chi, and his wounds were torn open. Even after transforming into an armor, Lin Jun could not completely block White's cross-cut sword chi. However, Lin Jun's immortal spirit body wasn't just for show. His strong defense and abnormal recovery allowed him to withstand White's sword chi. The people behind him covered their mouths in horror, afraid that they would make a sound that would affect Lin Jun. Once Lin Jun fell, they would definitely not be spared. On the other side, White saw the immediate effect of his battle strategy and laughed loudly. Ha ha! Lin Jun, little brat with your little battle experience, you think you can fight with me? Why are you protecting the group of trash behind you? Your soft-heartedness is your weakness. This battle is really disappointing. However, it seems like you have no other choice. Either you die under my sword chi, or the trash behind you die. Killing the reporters had always been Endless Race's plan. But now that Lin Jun was standing in their way, it wasn't easy for them to make a move. White and Ho Meng felt that it was better to kill Lin Jun first. Compared to the reporters behind him, Lin Jun was the target that had to be eliminated. If he wasn't eliminated, he would definitely become a disaster in the future. The two of them were demigods. It was impossible for them to lose. Seeing that White had completely gained the upper hand, Ho Meng was slightly disappointed. He held his long staff and sat on the wall to watch. In his opinion, unless Lin Jun had some tricks up his sleeve, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to defeat White. Lin Jun, who was in the eye of the storm, was very clear about the situation. When an expert made a move, it was easy to tell whether he was an expert or not. After exchanging blows with White, Lin Jun knew that ordinary combat skills would not be able to kill him. White's star power wasn't inferior to Lin Jun's. Moreover, he had lived for millions of years. His battle experience was countless times richer than Lin Jun's. Ordinary means wouldn't be able to deal with him. If he wanted to win, he had to use his trump card. Lin Jun's eyes darted around. He saw the fierce cross sword chi attack again, but it suddenly disappeared. With a short teleport, he suddenly appeared behind White and attacked at lightning speed. This guy, he actually abandoned his companions. White thought that Lin Jun wouldn't abandon the people behind him, but he didn't expect that Lin Jun would give up so easily. This caught him a little off guard. He sent out his sword chi, but it ended up hitting the heaven-concealing flag. Wen Tao, who was controlling the heaven-concealing flag, was suddenly hit hard and spat out a mouthful of blood. If the sword was hit again, he would probably be half dead. But at this moment, Lin Jun began to counterattack. He arrived behind White and stabbed out with his long spear, seriously injuring White's waist. However, White was a demigod after all. He was extremely experienced. When Lin Jun attacked, he had already sensed Lin Jun's position. He swung his heavy sword back and stabbed Lin Jun at the same time. Feeling the immense pain in his waist, White frowned slightly. He didn't expect Lin Jun to be so difficult to deal with. He actually abandoned his companions to injure him. It seemed that he wasn't as pedantic as he thought. Although Lin Jun was difficult to deal with, he was still confident that he could win. Therefore, he didn't want to ask for help from Ho Meng. But before White could unleash his ultimate technique, Lin Jun had already pounced on him. Bang! Lin Jun's arms locked tightly onto White's shoulders from behind. Lin Jun exerted force on his feet and leaped into the sky with White. Lin Jun, what's wrong with you? Do you think you can kill me like this? White twisted and struggled wildly. However, Lin Jun's star power had exploded, and he couldn't break free for a while. Lin Jun chuckled. Whether I can kill you or not, you'll know soon enough. Old Bull Demon, have a taste of exploding stars. As he spoke, another Lin Jun descended from the sky with a spear in his hand. A ball of light and fire at the tip of the spear turned into a falling star and went straight for White. Oh no, this is a trap. This scene took a long time to describe, but in fact, it didn't even take a second. Before White could react, death was about to befall him. Ho Meng! White roared. At this moment, he couldn't care less about his face. Ho Meng's appearance was extremely strange. The first thing Lin Jun saw was the round pole swinging down fiercely. Obviously, Ho Meng's mastery of space and teleportation was excellent. The pole swung toward Lin Jun's body that had locked onto White. His eyes were extremely vicious. As long as he killed Lin Jun's body, everything would be over. The two demigods finally made their move at the same time. No one expected Lin Jun to be able to suddenly bring White into the sky and have his doppelganger lie in wait in the air. He made use of a very short time to prepare to make his move. However, Lin Jun still miscalculated. He didn't expect Ho Meng's teleportation to be so fast, right? Lin Jun was very strong, but under the joint attack of two demigods, he didn't have much of a chance. At this moment, no one thought that Lin Jun could turn the tables, until that strange golden vine appeared. Bang! Unbeknownst to Ho Meng, the golden treasure-seeking vine was already entrenched in the ground beneath his feet, waiting for the moment he made his move. Therefore, before Ho Meng's pole was completely swung out, the treasure-seeking vine had already soared up. The vine grabbed Ho Meng's ankle and pulled him down to the ground. Damn! What the hell is this? How dare you block your grandpa monkey? Break! 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 Ho Meng's pole danced wildly, whipping the treasure-seeking vine to the point that it was swaying left and right. However, the treasure-seeking vine wasn't so easy to deal with. The golden vine grew thicker and thicker, covering the sky and covering the sun as it wrapped around Ho Meng in layers. Against this vine, staff-type weapons had limited destructive power. Even if Ho Meng was a demigod, it was simply unrealistic for him to instantly deal with the treasure-seeking vine. In just a short while, the battle in the sky had already been decided. The demigod Ox demigod, White, was still unable to completely shake off Lin Jun's main body. This made him extremely depressed. It wasn't that he didn't try his best to attack, but that Lin Jun's main body was like a sticky candy that wasn't afraid of any attacks. The only way to deal with it was to slice it into pieces and turn it into ashes. Because of this, he was unable to completely shake off Lin Jun's main body. At this moment, Lin Jun's doppelganger finally arrived. The spear turned into a star and ruthlessly smashed into White's body. The star's first point of impact was White's chest. Lin Jun's hands were still there, but Lin Jun's hands didn't move at all. They were still restraining White's body until both his arms were broken. White waved his heavy sword in a final attempt to block, but he was completely unable to stop the star from exploding. I can't accept this. Crack! Although this wasn't a true starburst, this attack was well prepared, and the layout was reasonable. It hit the target in one hit. The huge star exploded in the sky with a rumble. The air currents and shock waves it emitted caused the spectating martial artists on the ground to roll and crawl unsteadily. They were no longer able to maintain their formation. The power of the star's explosion directly intimidated everyone. In the intense waves of light and heat, several pieces of flesh fell from the sky. Others didn't know the situation, but Ho Meng, who was closest to the explosion, saw it clearly. This star's explosion actually killed White. Lin Jun's main body also tumbled down from the star's explosion. However, this attack was launched by his doppelganger. Lin Jun's main body naturally knew the most reasonable way to dodge it. Moreover, there was White as a meat shield in front of him. Therefore, although Lin Jun was injured, he was actually fine. The scene was in an uproar. Chapter 9:21. This scene made everyone's jaws drop. People always habitually agreed with their own beliefs. For example, a warrior's level determined their strength. No matter how much of a genius Lin Jun was, being able to survive under the hands of a demigod was already his limit, not to mention 2 war gods. However, not only did Lin Jun survive, he even killed one of them. This made many people go crazy. They felt like their world had been turned upside down, but they had to admit that they did witness the birth of a genius. Some people were happy, while others were sad. Lin Jun's main body was heavily injured by the star explosion. His body fell to the ground, and a lotus bloomed to protect his body. As for the doppelganger, it charged towards Ho Meng. Get lost! Ho Meng's staff spun like a windmill. After a series of consecutive strikes, the treasure-hunting tongue was finally sent flying far away. After sending the treasure-hunting tongue flying, Lin Zhen's clone was already in front of him. The lance of Lantis shook, and a series of sparks flew. The clone launched a fierce attack on Hong Meng. The rainstorm-like collision of weapons dazzled everyone. Lin Zhen's clone felt a little sore in his arm. The clone had 1.5 billion star power and was slightly weaker than Hong Meng. He didn't have the upper hand in the battle. However, Lin Zhen's clone wasn't afraid at all because his main body was quickly recovering. Hong Meng waved his staff. He felt that this Lin Zhen's clone was very difficult to deal with. He couldn't take him down after a few attacks, so he was a little anxious. Seeing that Lin Zhen's main body had reopened his eyes and that the vine that he sent flying came back, Hong Meng knew that he wouldn't be able to gain any benefits today. This Lin Zhen is really difficult to deal with. Forget it. Let's talk about it another day. Hong Meng swung his staff a few times and forced Lin Zhen back. Brat, I'm not playing with you anymore. See you next time. Hong Meng leaped upwards, his body transforming into a stream of light as he flew away. But how could Lin Zhen let him go so easily? Seeing Hong Meng trying to escape, he shouted, "Where do you think you're going?" With a raise of his hand, a gravitational force was sent out, directly enveloping Hong Meng. Hong Meng's body tried to break free from the gravitational pull, but his long tail was pulled straight. The doppelganger rushed over and shot out a spear light from afar. Hong Meng let out a blood-curdling scream as his long tail was sliced off. Lin Zhen's main body then used his gravitational force to retrieve it. Lin Zhen, you bastard. Let's wait and see. Go to Neptune if you have the guts. Hong Meng didn't dare to stay any longer. He accelerated to light speed and disappeared without a trace. Lin Zhen held Hong Meng's tail with one hand and spun it a few times. He felt that this guy's tail was quite tough. Turning around, he saw Wen Tao and the rest had already surrounded him. Everyone's face was filled with excitement. Saint Master, you're too amazing. That's great, Saint Master. You actually killed a demigod. That was a demigod. Saint Master Lin Zhen, may I ask, do you already have the strength of an emperor? To be able to win against two demigods at the same time, this is already almost the strength of an emperor. If Saint Master Lin Zhen is an emperor, may I ask if you have your own nickname? Other than the ground race's martial artists, the reporter's questions were even more difficult to answer. However, Lin Zhen didn't think that he had the strength of an emperor. Every emperor was at least a 7-star martial artist. They had enough fame and had killed other emperors before. Lin Zhen could deal with weaker demigods, but he was still lacking when it came to emperors. He waved his hand at these people. I'm not as powerful as you say. I didn't do anything too amazing. As a member of the ground race, I can't let these people from the endless races kill and do whatever they want. I'll still fight with them to the end. As for a nickname, I don't have one yet. I guess I'll have one when I become a 7-star martial artist. Seeing that more and more people seemed to want to ask questions, Lin Zhen hurriedly waved his hand. Everyone is in the planet graveyard. There will be many more opportunities for us to meet. I won't stay here. I believe there are people in other places who need me. With that, Lin Zhen turned and left. The martial artists behind also gradually dispersed. With the current situation in the planet graveyard, they couldn't stay in one place for too long. It would be easy to be surrounded and annihilated by the endless races. Wen Tao suddenly shouted from behind, Sage Master, where can I see you in the future? Wherever there's injustice, I'll be there. Lin Zhen answered coolly. He was already gone. A determined look gradually appeared on Wen Tao's face. He turned around and said to his companions, Your mission has been completed. Now leave the planet's graveyard and set foot on the path back to the company. I'm enough here. Captain, we're leaving. What are you still doing here? His companions asked. Wen Tao chuckled. I'm going to make an album here. It's about Lin Zhen's story. I can feel that Lin Zhen will definitely stir up a real storm in the eye of the storm. As long as this album is successful, I might be the #1 reporter in the primordial realm. His companions looked at each other. They knew that it was impossible to stop their captain. Wen Tao followed Lin Zhen's direction. He had already decided to follow Lin Zhen's story to the end. In the dimensional universe, Lin Zhen's story was spreading far and wide. A peak divine telekinesis fighting two demigods alone. Who can do that? The birth of the strongest genius in recorded history. Lin Jun, a martial artist from Tianfeng City in the southwest region of the endless sea of stars, challenges the limits for you. Have you seen a true genius? Come and see Lin Jun's performance. He'll turn all the so-called geniuses around you into trash. The man who dares to challenge the peak, the hero of the surface races, Lin Jun. Passionate, and hateful articles and videos were released. They recorded the entire process of Lin Jun's battle with White and Homeng. Among them, Wen Tao's title was the most eye-catching. After consulting with the higher-ups of the Dimensional Universe Corporation, Wen Tao's first campaign to promote Lin Jun was finally released. The cover was a picture of Lin Jun chasing after the endless races and turning back to make a peace sign. Other people's videos were reposted, but Wen Tao's was the original. Naturally, it was the most popular. Who says martial artists don't have hot-bloodedness? Fresh clothes, galloping angrily. Recording everything about Lin Jun in the eye of the storm. Take a look at the exclusive report that Wen Tao of the Dimensional Universe Corporation has brought back for you. There were many photos and videos in this post, as well as a lot of Wen Tao's narration of the incident. In order to create the image of Lin Jun as a hero, Wen Tao was not stingy with his beautiful words. He praised Lin Jun as much as he could, elevating his personality, temperament, and so on to a level that was close to that of a saint. Of course, these martial artists who had lived for countless years were used to the reporter's methods and would not believe them too much. However, Lin Jun's actions were indeed very shocking. Powerful, courageous, unafraid of challenges, and righteous. Such a martial artist was too rare. The Dimensional Universe Corporation also cooperated with Wen Tao's actions. When the Dimensional Universe was opened, there was actually a special title that attracted people to Wen Tao's post. It was equivalent to advertising for Lin Jun for free. This was not limited to Sky Square City and the Eye of the Storm. It covered the entire endless battlefield and the endless sea of stars. More than half of the primordial realm could see such news. Although not everyone clicked on it, the spread of this news had reached an extremely terrifying level. In the center of the endless battlefield, there was a large city here called Sky Fire City. Sky Fire City was different from any other city. It did not belong to the surface races, nor did it belong to the endless races. This was the only city that was jointly governed by the two major races. This was because in the vicinity of Sky Fire City, there were as many as tens of thousands of planets. It was said that this was the core area during the Big Bang. Almost all the rare ores came from here. In order to fight for Sky Fire City, the two races had fought for countless years. Every war was called the Sky Fire War. After countless years of fighting, Sky Fire City did not have a result. Even the gods were involved, but still, no one could completely suppress the other. After countless years, the two races were somewhat exhausted. In the end, the two races reached a balance. Both sides each managed a mining team. Each team had a week to collect ores, and the ores that were collected belonged to whoever obtained them. Therefore, in the entire primordial realm, this was the largest and most prosperous city. It was also the only place where both sides had management rights. This week, it was the endless races' turn to mine. The surface races' miners rested. The miners here were all captured. The dimensional universe system of the miners was sealed, and the miners were forbidden from contacting the outside world. They had no freedom to speak of. However, these miners could also watch the news in the dimensional universe so that they would not be too bored during their rest. It was just that the news broadcast was chosen by the foreman. The miners had no choice but to watch it. Today, the surface race's miners gathered together. The foreman arranged for them to watch the news. Sit down. Don't sway around. Since you're here in Skyfire City, you'd better behave. Remember, everything here is valuable. Human lives are worthless. With this knife in my hand, every 2 to 3 days, I'll kill someone who doesn't listen to orders or tries to escape. Therefore, you'd better be smart. Don't lose your head for nothing. The miners did not dare to make sound. They sat in their seats obediently and waited for the video to start. The foreman nodded in satisfaction. Good, that's more like it. Get ready to start. The projection on the wall in front of them started to play. This is a program recommended by the Dimensional Universe Corporation. It's called The Growth of a Genius Hero. Look at this warrior. Look at what a real genius is. It'll definitely scare your eyes out. The program started. On the big screen, Lin Jun made a peace sign. Ouch! A miner suddenly fell from his position. The foreman frowned. That who? Lin, right? You're courting death. Chapter 922. Seeing that the young man's attitude was good, the foreman didn't make things difficult for him. Hurry up and sit down. Don't be an eyesore. Lin obediently sat in his seat, but his heart was still in turmoil. He was sure that he hadn't seen wrongly. The martial artist who was promoted by the Dimensional Universe Corporation as the cover character was his biological father, Lin Jun. As Lin Jun's son, Lin had idolized his father since he was a child. Although it was his beautiful and gentle mother and Ning, Auntie Mingyue, and Auntie Angel who accompanied him most of the time at home. As a man, Lin yearned to follow his father into battle and make a name for himself. When danger came, he and his brother were sent to the primordial realm. However, he and his brother, Lin Ping, didn't end up in the same place. He came to Sky Flame City and was captured to become a miner. When Lin first arrived, he was only at the peak of the World King stage. However, the basic requirement for miners here was longevity. Miners who didn't reach the longevity realm were worthless. Lin had a breakthrough, so he did. He reached the longevity realm that people in the new territories dreamed of. He survived and used all the time he had to cultivate. Now, he had reached the longevity realm level 5. Lin sometimes felt despair because he felt that no matter how hard he cultivated, he wouldn't have the chance to leave Sky Flame City. It was impossible for him to resist the foremen and mine guards here. The other party was too strong, so strong that he couldn't defeat them. But now he saw his father. His father looked younger than him and was in high spirits. He had reached the peak of the divine wool transformation realm. In the video, his father slaughtered those at the deity realm and divine stone realm as easily as killing chickens. Lin's heart surged, especially when he saw Lin Jun kill White. Lin almost couldn't help but want to jump out of his seat and shout. He wanted to tell everyone that Lin Jun was his father. However, he didn't do so. He knew that it was better not to say many things. He was only a miner with a low status. It wouldn't be good for him to say it. I want to cultivate. He had to become stronger. He wanted to escape from Heaven Flame City. I'll go find my father and tell him about my brother's whereabouts. Lin silently made up his mind and fell into deep thought. The path of escape was very, very difficult. He had to consider it carefully. After leaving Linda Planet, Lin Jun headed toward Songhai Planet. Chris, what's the situation on the planet cemetery? Master, I just added Wen Tao as a friend in the Dimensional Universe. You won't blame me, right? Chris sat on Lin Jun's shoulder, kicking her chubby feet. Oh, why add him? That Wen Tao wants to add you, and I can see that this person knows a lot of things in the planetary graveyard. Adding him as a friend in the Dimensional Universe will save you a lot of time and effort. You can get a lot of information directly from him. You're so smart. Then tell me, what information did you get? Chris raised her little face. Of course, there's a lot of information. Listen well, at the planetary graveyard, there are about 400,000 warriors from the endless races and about 80,000 warriors from the surface races. We're at an absolute disadvantage. And this number is still decreasing because the endless races have sent out many hunting teams to search for traces of the surface races. The difference in strength is too great, and it's very difficult for the surface races to make a comeback. Lin Jun frowned slightly. I know all this. Tell me what I don't know. That's information about the endless races. Currently, there's an emperor leading the planetary graveyard. The demon race's emperor demigod, Azura King. This person is very strong, and he has more than 10 demigods and hundreds of Godstone experts under him. This is the main force on Songhai Planet. Is there any news about a ghost race Grand Elder, a saint-level alchemist? Lin Jun was thinking about the saint-level alchemist elder that the magistrate had mentioned. He wanted to meet this person. I really don't know. Lin Jun nodded. He knew that things wouldn't go so smoothly. Master, what are we going to do now? Lin Jun thought for a moment. There's nothing to do for now. Let's raise my star level first. Lin Jun calculated. Look, there are more than 400,000 people here. The average strength of the endless races is at the deity realm. Each one of them is worth 1,000 points, which adds up to 400 million points. I only need 100 million points to become a 7-star warrior. Crazy's eyes widened. She covered her mouth and said, Master, are you going to kill all the endless races here? Bragging isn't a good habit. Lin Jun laughed. If you give me enough time, I might be able to do it. Even if I can't kill them all now, I'll kill them until they're scared. I'll kill them until they're scared. I'll make them tremble when they hear my name, Lin Jun. At this point, Lin Jun opened the exchange page again and exchanged a few hundred Godstone loudspeakers. When the gold and silver loudspeakers were used together, both the surface races and the endless races could receive the message. People of the endless races, listen up. I'm Lin Jun. I'm in the graveyard of the planet. In the future, your people better stay on Songhai planet obediently and don't move. Otherwise, if I see you, I won't leave a single one alive. Once the threatening and domineering words came out, it caused another uproar. After the battle on planet Linda, the surface races were in high spirits. Immediately, many people supported Lin Jun. Of course, compared to those who supported Lin Jun, more people were cursing Lin Jun. Lin Jun thought that the first person to scold him would be someone from the endless races. He didn't expect that the first person to scold him would be the Heartless King. Lin Jun, you better not let me know your coordinates. Otherwise, you're dead. Ha ha ha. You better not let me know your coordinates. You're like a rat crossing the street. If you have the ability to fight with me, why don't I see you doing your part for the surface races? The endless races will deal with you, and the surface races don't need you. If you have the guts, tell me your coordinates. I'll go and destroy you now. Lin Jun's scolding caused many people to clap their hands and cheer. For example, people like the Chasing Soul King all spoke up to support Lin Jun. There were also those people who were rescued by Lin Jun on planet Linda. At this time, they couldn't care less about being stingy with their godstones. They all bought loudspeakers and scolded the Heartless King. They didn't dare to scold others, but the Heartless King was already at odds with Lin Jun. With Lin Jun as their backer, they didn't have to worry so much. Among them, Wen Tao's words were the sharpest. The Eye of the Storm was originally a battle between the surface races and the endless races. Both sides are enemies, so it's not too much to fight. Heartless King, it's fine if you don't want to help your own race. Lin Jun is now the hero of the surface races, and you still want to find trouble with him? Do you still have the meaning of race in your heart? You can even harm your family because you're heartless. That's why you got the title of the Heartless King. However, that's your own business, and no one is willing to care about you. But you don't care about the safety of your race, and that's unrighteous. How dare a heartless person like you come out and bark? You're really shameless. If anything happens to Lin Jun, my Dimensional Universe Corporation will definitely not let you off. Hearing Wen Tao's long speech, Lin Jun touched his chin. Although this reporter was more annoying before, his behavior was more to Lin Jun's liking. His words were sharp, and it was no wonder that he lived by talking. The Heartless King had a lot of ability, so he was bound to suffer this humiliation. Facing the surging emotions of the ordinary warriors of the surface races, the Heartless King didn't say another word. Among the surface races, other than the Heartless King, no one dared to scold Lin Jun. However, there were still many people who didn't like Lin Jun. For example, Ho Meng, who had fought with Lin Jun before. Ho Meng angrily rebuked Lin Jun. Lin Jun, you were just lucky before. How dare you be so arrogant? If I meet you on Neptune, I'll definitely turn you into ashes. Lin Jun laughed and retorted, Damn monkey, has your tail grown out? Doesn't your butt hurt anymore? I'm going to stew a pot of marinated monkey tail. Do you want to come over and drink some? Ho Meng was so angry that he vomited blood and cursed. The #1 expert of Neptune's surface races, the Azura King, also spoke. Lin Jun, you're just a kid, and you dare to boast so shamelessly. Come to Neptune if you have the guts. This old man will let you know the immensity of heaven and earth. Azura King, you're just a brat who hasn't been an emperor for long. How dare you rule over a planet's graveyard? Stay on Neptune and wash your neck and wait to be slaughtered. The day I go over will be the day you die. The Azura King was also very angry. However, as an emperor, he couldn't bring himself to argue with Lin Jun. Lin Jun, this king knows you have a sharp tongue. However, you don't have to be so arrogant. This old man won't argue with you. Aren't you good at scolding people? Aren't you rich? Today, someone will play with you. I'm just afraid you won't be able to afford it. After saying that, a Godstone expert from the devil race called Chaiba started to scold Lin Jun. Perhaps because he had the support of the Azura King. This Chaiba used the same method that Lin Jun had used against the Heartless King. The dual-colored loudspeaker kept on blaring, choosing the most unpleasant words to scold. The various races' classic scoldings did not stop. Sometimes, there were also people from the other races who jeered and mocked. The surface races instantly felt awkward. Chaiba had come prepared. If Lin Jun was scolded by him for a day, his reputation would be ruined. If they fought with him, they would definitely not be able to win. The countless races had occupied Neptune for so long. This amount of divine stones was nothing. After listening to a few sentences, Lin Jun also felt that it was a little tricky. After thinking for a while, he asked Chris, "Is there any way to find this person's approximate location?" Chris immediately replied, "I can't find it, but Wen Tao should be able to. He's from the Dimensional Universe Corporation and can locate the other party's dimensional AI. All right, since Wen Tao added me as a friend, then do something for me. Find him and confirm this Caiba's location." "Master, what do you want to do?" Chris asked. Chapter 923. Chris quickly connected to Wen Tao. "Mr. Lin Jun, where are you? I really want to do a detailed report about you. I need your cooperation in many areas. You have to know that if this matter is done well, you will be famous throughout the universe." Lin Jun interrupted Wen Tao. "Reporter 1, I'm a martial artist. Martial artists don't need to be too famous. That will bring a lot of unnecessary trouble. You understand this principle, right?" Wen Tao was stunned. He really didn't think of this. He just saw that Lin Jun was more high profile and thought that Lin Jun was willing to be famous. He didn't expect the other party to be unwilling. "Perhaps if this matter is done well, it will be more beneficial for you." Reporter 1, Lin Jun said with a smile. Wen Tao was slightly embarrassed. "Well, maybe a little. How about this? I've reached an agreement with Reporter 1. If Reporter 1 promises me one thing, then I can accept your interview anytime and anywhere. This kind of thing can also be done in the dimensional universe. You don't have to expose my location." Wen Tao's eyes lit up when he heard this. "Let's hear it. I need to know the location of some people in the dimensional universe. The Dimensional Universe Corporation can locate them, right? Well, I need to know the location of someone. Please provide it to me." Reporter 1. "Ah, is that so? But the company has rules. Every user in the dimensional universe is a customer." Okay. Don't talk to me about the rules. Rules are set and changed by people. I promise that I won't implicate your company. Also, there's no need to keep those who are about to die a secret." Wen Tao hesitated for a while and decided to ask the higher-ups. About 5 minutes later, Wen Tao gave a reply. "The higher-ups here belong to the surface race. What he promised me is that he can only provide you with the location of some people in the endless race, not including the surface race. For example, if you want to find trouble with the Heartless King, we can't provide that. That's enough. Endless races will do. However, the endless races can't casually provide them. They are limited to those below Emperor level. Emperor level martial artists are all big clients of the company. Their benefits cannot be harmed. This is a matter of principle." Lin Jun thought for a moment and nodded. "Sure. Deal. Now, give me the coordinates of this Guaiba." "Please wait a moment." In less than 20 seconds, Wen Tao sent over Chaiba's coordinates. "All right, when I have time, I'll contact you for an interview. But for now, I want to teach those bastards from the endless race a lesson." Lin Jun hung up the dimensional universe and immediately searched for Chaiba according to the coordinates. Looking at the coordinates, he guessed that Bali wasn't too far away from him. It was about 40 million kilometers away. In the interstellar space, this distance could be considered extremely close. Lin Jun instantly condensed his mental energy, penetrating through the void. It was like a pair of eyes that could disregard space-time, directly enveloping Saiba. In the northeast region of vast sea star, the divine stone expert Saiba was located on a small planet. Beside him were over a dozen deity realm martial artists. This was his team. With the Azura King's instructions, Saiba began to unscrupulously spam. He wanted to thoroughly embarrass Lin Jun. Beside him, his subordinates were putting the divine stones together, ready to give them to Saiba at any time. This team currently had thousands of divine stones, enough to give Lin Jun a good scolding for a while. There were even people who kept giving suggestions to Saiba, asking him to change his lines. These endless races martial artists were having a lot of fun. Ha ha! Awesome! Lin Jun, you little bastard, aren't you good at spamming? Why are you so scared now? Come, brothers of the endless races, give this brother a wave of double clicks 666. The endless races had a few 100,000 people in the eye of the storm. Of course, there were some who liked to join in the fun and spend 20 divine stones to make their presence known. Every time Saiba came up with a classic quote, a group of people would immediately join in the fun. At this time, the surface races were somewhat silent. They couldn't compare to the other party in terms of numbers and wealth. This feeling was very sullen. Lin Jun's spiritual power arrived above Saiba. Looking at the few people below who had forgotten themselves, Lin Jun snorted coldly and spoke in the dimensional universe first. Saiba, probably no one has ever taught you not to easily offend a powerhouse, because you will never know the trump card of this powerhouse. You don't know what unknown methods he has, whether he can take your life at any time. Saiba, who was thinking of his lines, immediately became spirited when he heard this. There was no meaning in a one-man show. He couldn't wait for Lin Jun to join in so that he could have a sense of accomplishment. Ha ha! Lin Jun, you're nothing more than a peak divine sense, and you dare to call yourself a powerhouse in front of me, the divine stone realm. I really don't know who gave you the courage. You even dare to boast shamelessly about taking my life. I'll wait for you here. Come on. Ha ha. Saiba laughed wantonly, thinking that he was famous this time. In the future, Saiba would also be famous. Lin Jun added, to your left, there's a cultivator from the Demon Wolf clan. He's at the peak of the divine world. Ah, how do you know? Saiba's tone immediately became vigilant. Not only do I know, I also know that he is the first among you to die. Lin Jun's tone paused for a moment. Reckless thing, you actually want to challenge me. Am I someone you can challenge? Now, I'm warning all of you from the endless races. If you don't have enough strength, don't seek your own death. Otherwise, you will end up like Saiba's group. With that, Lin Jun directly released the divine Might Heaven's Will. On Saiba's left side, the devil wolf race warrior who was racking his brains to think of a line for Saiba had his head blown up by Lin Jun on the spot. The sky blue spiritual power attack. Any warrior below the sky blue level, even if they had a spiritual defense treasure, would be unable to stop the divine Might Heaven's Will. Bang! Oh, he's dead. What's going on? Boss Saiba, be careful. Someone is ambushing you. As Saiba was still speaking, the voice beside him immediately transmitted into the dimensional universe. In the entire Eye of the Storm, as long as everyone opened the dimensional universe, they would be able to hear the chaos over there. Lin Jun, what's going on? Who is the killer? Did you send a spy to spy on me? Who is it? Get out here for me. Saiba no longer cared about scolding Lin Jun. The devil wolf race warrior beside him had suddenly died. It looked like he had been hit in the head by a spiritual attack. Who did this? If it was someone beside him, how could he still dare to scold at ease? Lin Jun laughed. I warned you just now, but you stubbornly refused to wake up. Then, prepare to receive your punishment. Next, it's that devil lion race warrior. How dare you insult me? Lin Jun. Unforgivable. Bang. Just like how the devil wolf race warrior died, this devil lion race warrior was instantly killed by Lin Jun without any suspense. His head exploded like a watermelon without any resistance. Saiba's subordinates were about to go crazy. One by one, they pulled out their weapons and looked around vigilantly, guarding against any enemies that might appear at any time. However, they didn't discover anything. On this dead small planet, there seemed to be only a few of them. The sky was vast, the earth was vast, and there wasn't even a shadow of a ghost. And Lin Zhan's voice once again sounded like a ghost. Next, it's that guy with the bull's head. Go to hell. Bang! The third watermelon exploded. These warriors from countless races were crazily shouting and screaming. Their vocal cords seemed to have been torn apart. As warriors, they couldn't say that they were afraid of death. However, they were afraid of dying without knowing why. You could stab a knife into my chest and kill me, but no one wanted to die without a sound. It couldn't be considered silent either. Before Lin Zhan killed someone, he would notify them in advance. However, the other party didn't even know how Lin Zhan did it. Their heads exploded directly. This kind of intense fear was almost suffocating. Lin Zhan, where the hell are you? Who can tell me what the F***CK is going on? Saiba howled hysterically. Every time he did so, he would use his dual loudspeakers to shout within the dimensional universe. His mournful voice reverberated, causing every martial artist who heard this process to feel their backs go numb. Mother****, is this for real? I'm about to pee my pants. In the future, I won't dare to defame Lin Zhan anymore. You can't kill people like this. A warrior of an endless race even said such words in the dimensional universe. And Lin Zhan's performance wasn't over yet. Next, it's the two bears beside you. It's time to end your lowly lives. When the two bears heard this, they howled and fled pathetically. However, how could they avoid the divine might of heaven's will? It was formless and colorless. It was like two sniper rifles hitting their heads. Blood sprayed everywhere. They died on the spot. Next, it's that leopard. There's no need to run. Even if you run to the ends of the world, you'll still die. Pung. The leopard warrior died. Next, it's that eagle warrior. Hee hee. You actually want to fly? Let's see where you can fly to. After a bird cry, the Eagle Clan's martial artist fell. And this Earth Dragon warrior. Earth Escape. I can tell you responsibly that there's no way out for you now. Earth Escape is useless. Die. A muffled sound came from underground. The Earth Dragon warrior died underground. He would never see the light of day again. One after another, he killed them. Soon, the dozen or so deity realm experts beside Saiba were all dead. Saiba screamed in despair. Lin Zhan, don't be arrogant. Although I don't know what method you used, you can kill deity realm experts, but don't think about killing me. I'm at the Godstone realm. You can't do it. Childish. Since you think so, then use your life to prove it. Saiba suddenly felt danger. He screamed in despair, don't. Pung. Another headshot appeared. Saiba's voice stopped abruptly. Only Lin Zhan's cold voice echoed. People of countless races, don't treat my words as a joke. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. For a long time, there was no reply in the dimensional universe.